All right, I want to thank everyone for your patience. I'm going to go ahead and call to order our special meeting of Vallejo City Council at 7:10 p.m. And I'll ask the city clerk to conduct the roll call, please. Present.
Vice Mayor Genzer.
Present.
Council members Gordon.
Present.
Letterju. Matthias.
Here.
Matulek, I see you running.
Present.
And Councilmember Palmer is absent, or is he present? Absent, okay.
All right, and with that, I'm going to ask everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. The City Council just came out of a closed session, so for item number 4, I'll ask our City Attorney to report out on closed session, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The City Council did meet in closed session immediately preceding this meeting with regard to the following items. Conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 549-56.8, the property 301 Farragut Avenue. Agency negotiator Gillian Hain, Assistant City Manager. Negotiating parties Jamila Hainiff, Watch Me Grow, and Ulysses Saturain, Tech Exchange. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment of sublease. With regard to that item, the council gave direction to staff. Item B, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 549-56.8. The property 126 Ohio Street. Agency negotiator, Gillian Hain, Assistant City Manager. Negotiating parties are Shea Mills for the House of Acts. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. With regard to that item, the council gave a direction to its negotiator. And item C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 549-56.9, D2, one case. With regard to that item, the council gave direction to its legal counsel. There is no further action to report at this time.
All right, thank you. That is going to bring us to our consent calendar. We just have one consent calendar item, and we'll open up our public comment period for that item. And I will ask, I guess we've got 2 minutes to run down. So it's an amendment to the public-private partnership agreement for the first responder emergency services between the City of Vallejo, Medical Ambulance, and other participating member cities. And I will ask my colleagues if we want to pull anything from consent as we wait for public comment. We have a public commenter. Let's go ahead and call them.
Kim Diocampo.
For the consent item? We're on the consent fire one. We'll bring you up for the next one. Thanks, Kim. Anyone else? I think would it be A?
Kim, you wanted to speak on item A, action item A? Is that right? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Neither?
Neither.
Oh, so you want to just cancel
items?
your sign up?
Okay. Thanks. All right, any other public commenters? All right, seeing none, we're just going to let the clock run, and then we will go ahead and get a motion for the consent calendar. And that's the consent calendar and approval of the agenda. All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda and consent calendar?
Yes, I move that we adopt a resolution approving the Second Amendment to the Public-Private Partnership PPP agreement.
I think you can just say consent calendar, actually, Vice Mayor.
Sorry.
Then
I approve the consent calendar
All right.
and the agenda.
Let's do it.
The motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Paul Mayer is absent.
All right, thank you very much. That's going to bring us to our action calendar. We have 2 action items this evening, and I'll ask our city clerk to announce our first action item.
Receive an update on the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians Trust Land and proposed development, and possibly direct staff to negotiate a memorandum of understanding regarding services for the interim development of the tribal offices.
All right, thank you. We've got our assistant city manager here. We'll go ahead and open up public comment for anyone in the room and online, and I'll turn it over whenever you're ready for a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, we will be giving the public and the council an update on the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians project. Next slide, please. This is the site here, the proposed project site here along Highway 80. Next slide, please. Just as a little background, the tribe submitted an application to the Department of the Interior to put land into trust here in the city of Vallejo in 2016. There was much litigation for several years, much analysis, and then in July of 2024, the Bureau of Indian Affairs posted an environmental assessment. They were looking at potential environmental consequences of the tribe's proposed casino and housing project at the site within the city of Vallejo. The city heard of that and attended the scoping meeting there and learned about the project through the BIA. And then shortly thereafter, the tribe reached out to the city in August of 2024 and began discussing their project and the process and where they were. In late August, the city sent a comment letter with all the concerns, identifying potential impacts that could impact our citizens here in Vallejo and our concerns with the document and the project. Next slide, please. At that point, the tribe and city staff continued to have meetings about the impacts and the concerns for our citizens of Vallejo. And in November 19th, 2024, the city and the tribe entered into a cooperative agreement to further analyze what those potential impacts to the city could and would be. Those topics were identified as water infrastructure, easements, capacity and supply, sewer and wastewater and stormwater, vehicle emergency access, transportation, infrastructure and capacity, and then public safety services, and then social impacts, economic impacts, and other impacts. In January of 2025, Department of the Interior approved the fee to trust application and the gaming eligibility for the Scotts Valley tribe. And subsequently, several lawsuits were filed with other tribes challenging this determination and approval. And then, therefore, in March of 2025, the Department of the Interior issued a temporary rescission of gaming eligibility determination and sent out requests for comments on that decision. The tribe in April filed a complaint and an injunction to seek to reinstate their gaming eligibility. And the city sent a letter directed by City Council May 29th, 2025 regarding that temporary rescission of the gaming eligibility. Next slide, please. The tribe filed suit, as I mentioned, in April of 2025 in a federal court challenging the DOI's reversal of its January 10th approval in that decision. The tribe contends the action was unlawful because it deprived them of their vested rights, violated due process, and exceeded the department's authority, disregarded reliance interests, and was influenced by political pressures. Other tribes filed suit in March and April as well, challenging the DOI approval of the trust acquisition and the gaming eligibility determination. And these cases are all still pending before the same district court judge in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, who's presiding over the prior litigation filed by the Scotts Valley tribe. Next slide, please. So just kind of want to go over the gaming compact and ordinance status. On March 4th, the governor's office here in California accepted the request to negotiate for the State 3 Gaming Compact. They met the state and the tribe met March 27th for their first negotiation, and when the DOI rescission was announced, temporary rescission, the negotiations were put on hold. Once the compact, if it is successfully negotiated and moves forward, it would then need to be ratified by the California State Legislature and approved by the Secretary of the Interior before it would take effect. And then the tribal gaming ordinance was adopted in 1996, And in January 2025, it was amended, and March 25th, 2025, the National Indian Gaming Commission approved the amended ordinance. Next slide, please. This is the link for all those interested in the environmental assessment report for the project. Next slide. So there are two processes before the proposed project can be approved. The fee to trust application was approved January 10th, and so the land is in trust for benefit of the tribe right now, and that has not changed. What is up for the federal government to make a decision on is the gaming eligibility and that temporary rescission that was issued. So after that is determined, if the gaming compact can move forward out of that, then the negotiation with the governor and the state will resume. And again, just pointing out, this process is largely through the federal government and the state government, and the city has no discretionary approval over any of these processes at this point in time. But we are still trying to work together with the tribe to ensure that if the proposed project does move forward, that those impacts are effectively researched, analyzed, and mitigated for. So again, our role is limited to a responsible agency regarding the environmental assessment in that fee to trust process. We will be ensuring city easements are maintained and all of our needs are met through this negotiation process. Once the tribe submits a request to negotiate with the gaming compact with the governor to detail out that project, then that process will proceed. If it does not bear fruit, the tribe's gaming facilities would be limited to Class 2 gaming, which is just card rooms and bingo halls, which at this point, if nothing moved forward, they would still be able to move forward with a card room or bingo hall at the site. The negotiated compact, if that comes to fruition, would then need to be approved by the federal government, and the gaming ordinance will move forward as approved thus far. Next slide, please. So as an update from our last meeting where I was here and we sent a letter in on the temporary rescission of the gaming eligibility, since then the tribe has decided to work on some interim modular tribal offices on their trust land. So September 19th, the tribe began some dirt work, some site work on its trust land in Vallejo to establish this temporary office. They are interested in working with the city on a memorandum of understanding for interim city services to include water, police, and fire for these two modular trailer offices. And this potential MOU could provide the city with an opportunity to deliver services on a reimbursable basis for those offices. The tribe could also move forward without city services and get their own water tanks or their own services to manage their development on their own property without city involvement. Future plans for the 160-acre project with the larger casino and event venue, 24 units of tribal housing, expanded tribal administration center, and open space preservation on the site, and including approximately 3,600 jobs. This proposal currently of the temporary modular offices doesn't include any of that proposed project. That's the larger development that remains on hold and pending the litigation. So this current proposal is just a parking area with two small modular buildings intended to be used for tribal offices and the opportunity for the city to work on an MOU here in the next month or so if the city council is interested in doing so. Next slide, please. So just reviewing some of the benefits and risks of working on this proposed temporary office use. It could provide essential municipal services that safeguard health and safety at the temporary office location. It ensures cost recovery to the city and avoids any unfunded impacts on the general fund for providing the water and police and fire to the site. It could strengthen the tribes and the city's intergovernmental relations and working together. It will establish clear roles and protocols for emergency medical service and water provision. It would be consistent with and advance implementation of the cooperative agreement approved prior in 2024, and sets a foundation for additional agreements as the tribal development progresses. And then it's an opportunity together to work on community benefits for Vallejo and longer-term infrastructure needs that the city has, both in that location of the city, but also citywide. Next slide, please. There are some risks. It could increase demand on fire and police service, but cost recovery could mitigate those provisions and ensures that the tribe receives the same services that all the citizens of Vallejo currently receive, and nothing more or less. Enforcement of the terms, even with the limited waiver of sovereign immunity, which the tribe is proposing, is a little bit more complex than on regular fee simple owned non-tribal entity land. So that's a little complexity there without the MOU. Some community members may view this MOU as linked to the larger casino development, so I tried to make it very clear that that larger casino development is still in the impact analysis stage right now, and that this MOU would only apply to the temporary office proposal. And then again, just wanting to reiterate that the city holds no approval authority over the federally designated tribal trust land, over the gaming compact process, or any of those development activities the tribe may take on their tribal trust land. But this is an opportunity to work closely with them to ensure that any impacts could be mitigated, even though the tribe is not bound to work with the city. Next slide, please. Risks of not moving forward with the MOU are that the tribe may proceed in the process without involving the city. The BIA analysis of mitigation is probably not the same level analysis that we're working on right now currently with the tribe. The appropriate mitigation for this city and this community may be more than what the BIA's environmental assessment has provided for. There is a city water transmission line on the property, a city water tank nearby, and the hillside development as a documented landslide area are a few areas of concern that the city feels does need larger analysis and mitigation relating to potential future impacts. So since we don't have any approval authority as the city, it is a good position to prepare for these impacts and work with the tribe on an impactful outcome to protect our city interests in a government-to-government relationship, rather than risking these impacts without any mitigations or any city involvement. Next slide, please. Community concerns surrounding casinos are very common. The cooperative agreement has provided a path for the city to work on some of these impact assessments in these areas of concern to ensure that we do get that mitigation potentially. The impact studies that are currently underway, the city has executed agreements with, and there is a reimbursement agreement that the tribe is paying for these studies. They include water, economic and social impacts, traffic, and public safety, and those are all underway. And we are assuming that both infrastructure and potential monetary mitigations would be recommended coming out of these impact analyses once they are completed. The requested MOU currently up for discussion this evening is for the interim development of the modular offices, as I stated prior, and again would ensure reimbursement of those potential services if the city will consider that. And again, not at any other level than what the community is already receiving. So if there is a priority one call and also a call on the tribal trust land, the priority one call would always take precedence. So I just want to make that clear. Another point to hit on is that intertribal collaboration with all the tribes with jurisdiction here in the city of Vallejo is required and has been our past practice. The Native American Heritage Commission does list all of Native American tribes that have heritage or ancestral lands within the city limits of the city of Vallejo, and so we do work with all of the tribes. This MOU would not require that we work only with the one. We would still maintain those relationships and work forward with all the tribes that have ancestral ties to the city of Vallejo. Next slide, please. If the city council does approve staff to further negotiate the MOU, we would research, work with consultants, look at those impacts of the interim development of the tribal offices to ensure they are reimbursed and mitigated for, and we would bring back a draft MOU for council to consider. As the scope of analysis of these impact areas are available for the larger project impacts, we will also return to City Council for review of those studies and those proposed mitigations as we move forward. And that would continue concurrently with this litigation and pending its outcome. So it's a couple different processes. The litigation is happening regarding the gaming eligibility. The impact analysis is still taking place on the larger project. Whether it does or doesn't move forward, that hasn't been determined, but the impact analysis and mitigation is still happening. And then thirdly, concurrently happening is a temporary office use where we are looking at potentially working on a memorandum of understanding to serve just the modular offices. So next step after this MOU, if we are directed to move forward negotiating, once litigation is resolved, then we would be working further on an intergovernmental agreement if that is the path forward. And again, public input each time through this process is definitely welcomed and part of the process. So that concludes my presentation on the update on where we are on the potential project and the opportunity to negotiate a memorandum of understanding regarding the temporary modular offices the tribe is building on the site. And with that, the tribal chairman and tribal representatives are also here this evening for any questions or concerns.
All right, thank you very much. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and take public comment, and then we'll open it up for council questions and discussions. And how many speakers do we have in person?
We have 5.
All right, let's go ahead and call them.
Our first speaker is Wanda Medeiros.
Way down. Good evening, everyone. You know who I am, most of you. Actually last week when I read that the Scotts Valley Pomo tribe had broken ground, I was really surprised because I know that they are embroiled in lawsuits right now. And these temporary buildings that they are proposing to build are not on any of their environmental assessment documents, nor are they on any drawings or renderings of the project that the public has been privy to. I know and realize that each tribal nation is a sovereign entity. Tribal sovereignty includes protecting cultural resources. Any construction must factor in the potential for encountering sensitive cultural sites. Is the Scotts Valley Pomo tribe prepared to halt work and notify other federally recognized tribes who are the original landowners? During the excavation and construction process, it sounds like they've already started. Has anyone even thought of this on the city side? Does the Scotts Valley Pomo tribe have a consulting agreement with the ancestral tribes of that area before any construction phases start? Well, they've already started. Cultural resources must be protected by law. This is truly the litmus test at the root, mutual intertribal respect and honor for the land. I know that whenever I look at that hillside, I get tears. It's so beautiful. And I can't imagine what the ancestral folks feel when they look at that. County and city governments have no permitting authority over tribal trust lands. The process varies depending on whether the tribe has adopted its own building codes or relies on oversight. But from whom? Many tribes throughout California have developed their own building departments, permit procedures that align with federal and state building codes. What standards are they following? What studies and analysis have been performed? Were they statistically significant? What is the governmental process that they are following? I have written a little something I would like to have passed out to each of the council members. If you would please take that under consideration. I would appreciate it. This is very big, and we don't know if they're going to even get their gaming
Thank you.
license at this point.
Thank you. If you pass it over there, we'll pass it down.
Okay, our next speaker is Matthew Adams.
And on the lower right is the toggle to raise it up.
That's exactly what I needed. All right, low to high. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Matthew Adams for the Yochadihi Wintun Nation. Understand that tonight's item is characterized as just an update, taking a quick look at the staff report and hearing a little bit of what staff has had to say tonight, though thought it might be helpful to try and clarify a couple of things. There are also some additional materials that we submitted to the clerk, and you may want to take a look at those as well. First, just noting a passage from the staff report that says something along the lines of the city works with any tribe that has ancestral ties to Vallejo. You know, the suggestion seems to be that that means that a deal has to be done with Scotts Valley. I think the truth is that Scotts Valley doesn't have those ancestral ties. That's exactly what the reconsideration at the federal level is all about. But at the end of the day, this MOU doesn't really have anything to do with that. Negotiate, don't negotiate, but no need to rewrite history in a way that's really offensive to the Patwan people who used and occupied these lands, for so long. Second, we've heard some people say tonight, and maybe some other times, and maybe we'll hear it again, the city has to do these deals because it has no permitting authority, it has no choice in the matter. It's true. The Bureau of Indian Affairs is the one that put the land in trust for Scotts Valley and not the city. It's also true that as a general matter, cities don't have direct regular authority over tribal trust lands. But in this case, not generally, but here, the city does have both property and contract rights that survive the trust transfer, and you have all the authority you need to condition, accept, or reject the development plans that have been proposed for that property, not just the casino, but also this temporary development. Third, those decisions, forfeiting rights, providing services, those have environmental consequences, not just on the trust land, but outside as well. And so if this MOU goes forward, there's going to have to be CEQA review, and that needs to be baked into the thinking we would submit. And then fourth, just picking up on this idea that somehow the MOU advances intertribal coordination. That was interesting. And speaking of collaboration, it came as a surprise to me. I think it would have come as a surprise to the other Patwan tribes who are native to this area. Certainly wasn't previewed with us. And so just to give a flavor for how that kind of thing is received, these are ancestral Patwan lands. Now another tribe from another part of California wants to plant a flag, make this a seat of their government. And so you can understand that for Yochadihi and others, this isn't just about modular trailers, it's about something deeper. And I think it might be a little bit naive to say, well, we'll just work for everybody.
Time.
No impact. So I'm out of time. Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to answer any questions, and I know we'd be glad to be a resource.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Boyce.
And same on the lower right, there's a toggle to change the height of the podium if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and citizens. I'm Robert Boyce. I live over on St. Vincent's Hill, and I've been following this issue for a while. Got to say up front, I'm not a fan of gambling. I don't really see it as any real benefit for the community. I know it's a big issue for the native population, but I would like to see them come up with a better type of activity and facility. So, you know, I don't have a whole lot else to say, but I do have some concern about the traffic it would create. You know, has that been considered? Will the existing street accommodate the amount of new traffic that will be created? Is there parking sufficient to keep that amount of vehicles off of the, you know, out? But you can guess at my concern at, you know, if this site will accommodate all the additional population that this site, this facility is going to attract. And I just don't think that, you know, gambling is not a real big benefit to any of the communities locally that have already built facilities, and I don't really think that we should add to that. And I do have appreciation for the native population, but and I do want to consider their benefits. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sean Davis.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Good evening. Good to see some familiar faces and community members here on behalf of us and some that are not. My name is Sean Davis. I'm the chairman of the Scotts Valley Band of Homo Indians. The comments that were just made, I respect all their comments about what's going on and stuff like that. But right now, we're just doing an office. We're not trying to put up a big old sign or anything like that. We're just trying to do the process. We have been landless for over 35 years, and it'll take more than a night to talk about our history. And we've been doing this for a very long time. And so we have, you know, we're excited to be where we're at and to be helping this community out in the future. But right now, we're in a legal battle, kind of David versus Goliath kind of thing. So it's kind of hard for me to comment on gaming right now, but all I want, you know, if you have more questions, we have a team here. Ezra Chabin, he can answer all the MOU questions and stuff. But I would just like to say thank you for your time tonight, and you know, moving forward for us as a positive. It's our homeland now. And that's the way we're looking at it. We've been homeless for a long time. And it's kind of hurtful to, you know, hear people think that we're going to stomp on Vallejo when we want to just have our own home and help the city and county of Vallejo. It's a crazy world out there at this moment. You know, I just think that if and when the time comes for gaming, we would hope to have government to government with all you guys, keep all of you in the loop, and be loyal and, you know, truthful with everybody and have an open relationship to make everything work for everybody. But as I said, it's a David and Goliath kind of thing right now. And our position right now is that we're in court. So we won't know for another month and a half where we stand. And this is all the United States government that gave us this. We fought so hard to get this. And the United States government made the decision to give us this land into trust. So we're doing the land into trust, but the gaming was taken off. So that's what we're fighting right now. Put it in so many words, but good to see everybody. And that's all I got to say. So thank you for everything.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathleen Diohep. Did I pronounce that correctly, I hope?
You know how to lower it, right? Lower right. Yeah.
Hi, Council and Mayor. Kathleen Dihep. I wanted to just give a little bit of a context on one thing I was realizing that this is one of the tribes that in 2014 proposed to do a casino on Mare Island. And we presented a staff analysis at that time, and we told them it would take a decade to get land into trust laws, and I don't have that many forecasts in my career that came out so accurate. So this will take a very long time, is what a lot of folks are saying here. I want you to protect your bandwidth and your staff's bandwidth. Make sure this MOU, this cooperative agreement, recovers your out-of-pocket costs and your staff costs. Maybe covers a project manager. Good news, California Forever has written contracts like this with Sassoon City, and you might be able to crib them straight out. But this is a big possible long shot. And it's not the thing to take your eyes off the prize of everything you're doing here in Vallejo. And I really want you to focus on that. Whether you're seeing the tribe now, but there's a developer in this deal too. The funding they are not, if they're David to Goliath, I don't know what that makes the city of Vallejo the ant. You are in a much smaller role and have less part of this. But it is complex. You have some angles. There are some ways you can leverage this. I just wouldn't drive this to the front of the bus because it's not the thing that's going to change Vallejo right away. So making sure these agreements protect you. I wanted to just mention, I'm guessing city manager knows a little bit of this story. Also base closure, Point Malati, 2004. They started working with a casino, with a tribe. They weren't able to get the land in trust. There was a deal, all of this. 20 years later, after a lot of lawsuits and other things, and the developer ended up buying the site from the city for $400, I think it was. East Bay Regional Parks ended up coming in, buying out that developer for $85 million. So it's actually pretty cool that it ends up being parks on that edge of Richmond. I don't see a wealthy regional agency stepping up in Solano to save you from this. So you can't not talk to them, but you can't let it drive the train. And so I really encourage you to make sure these agreements get not just your out-of-pocket costs, but something to help with your bandwidth on your staff and your resources. So, thanks.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jesse Gonzalez.
Good evening, everybody. Jesse Gonzalez. I'm the vice chair for the Scotts Valley Band of Poma Indians. I just wanted to touch bases. I know reading all these articles about our tribe, once we got our land into trust, I know it took us many, many years dealing with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and, over 30,000 pages of having to prove who we were and where we came from and our ties to this area before we were even considered getting land into trust. They don't just, stamp a tribe to get land into trust anywhere. It's such a rigorous thing, especially here in, the Bay Area. It would seem like it was 10 times harder just because of where we came from and where our ancestors were, because this place seemed to be, highly inhabited. But I know there's a lot of tribes like the Cache Creek Band of Wintun Indians, not Patwins, and other tribes were coming against us. I do know, and I can only speak for our tribe and where we come from and our tribal ancestral ties and the black and white, where we came from and what type of Indians we were. I know we go by Pomo, but that is an English term that was made up for our group of tribe. That isn't even our original tribal names. And I know a lot of non-Indians don't know all the history about the Indians and how they're named and where their groups are. But I know the federal government, did a lot of research on that. And there's a specific reason why they gave us land in trust. I just want to make sure people know that, because if not everybody knows all those type of things. And a lot of terrible things, other people telling the public who our history is. And so I feel good to have an opportunity to tell people who we are and where we came from, and we're from here. My great-grandfather and his parents, we have thousands of documentations that were already presented to the Bureau of Indian Affairs of where we came from. So it's disheartening to hear other people taking our tribal lineage away because of their own bottom line. I just wanted to make sure people don't get confused. But thank you for an opportunity. We'd love to have an agreement with Vallejo. This is our home from now on. This is our only land we have in Vallejo, 160 acres, and we're so very thankful, and we want to work with our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Gabriel Ray.
And as he approaches the podium, we do have a few speakers online.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, Council. My name is Gabriel Ray, Councilman for Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians. I just wanted to just say that we are part of this community now. We want to be a great partner to the city, to the county. Reason we want this MOU is so that we're making sure that we're doing everything the way it's supposed to be done. And we've been having great communication with the city. And I just, it's kind of saddening to see another tribe come in and try to tell another tribe what their history is, especially if they're not this tribe. So, you heard Yochidihi talking here, but that's the Yochi Wintun Nation. It's not the Yochidihi Patwin Nation. They have Patwin lineage, and they absorbed Patwin into their tribe. I also have that same lineage. My tribe absorbed Patwin into our tribe. I wouldn't be able to be standing here today if not for my lineage from the Patwin people. So I just wanted to come up and say that, I don't appreciate another tribe come and try and tell us our history when it seems like they don't even know their own history. There's no history here for the Wintun Nation being in this area. That's why they're trying to go off of the Patwin Nation. So I just wanted to make that very clear, because I'm tired of hearing them trying to write on the backs of the Patwin people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before we move to the online speakers, I want to check back with Auntie Kim. Did you want to speak on this item? Sure.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Kim Diocampo. I am a resident of Vallejo for 66 years. I am a member of the Tuolumne Miwok tribe and the granddaughter and grandniece of Indian boarding school survivors. Today is September 30th. It is known throughout the US and Canada as Orange Shirt Day. It is a sad reminder of the dark chapter in US history when Native children were forcibly removed from our families and communities and placed in faraway residential schools. Kill the Indian and save the man was the mission of these schools, to forcibly assimilate our children by cutting their hair, preventing us from speaking our languages, and failure to adhere to these brutal policies resulted in violent punishment like beatings and the denial of food. As we come to now understand the devastating impact of trauma within our tribal communities, our survivors have started to come forward to tell their stories of child abuse and sexual abuse in the residential schools. We cannot heal what we do not confront. So on this day of remembrance, we call on the U.S. and religious institutions who ran these schools to address this history with honesty, accountability, and action, and means full investigations for every boarding school to provide resources and support to our survivors and to the families of those children who never came home. I would also like to say that for us as California Indian people, migration is ancestral. We traveled and we traded and we also intermarried into other tribes. There are no borders for us. And this county has always underrepresented the indigenous people that actually live here. Also that lived along the Carquinez Strait were the Bay Miwok as well as Carquinez Ohlone. We have never ever acknowledged the history of this county, but yet we have some little scrawny Indian on the county flag. So let's just understand right now that our relatives here, they have ties to this land because we do not have borders. And we traveled and we traded. And so that needs to, you need to understand the history prior to colonization. So I just want to bring that up. And also my relatives here are also, they are also the survivors of the boarding schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and call our online speakers.
First online speaker, and C, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Ann Carr. Can you hear me? Please confirm.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I have to say, I guess I'll echo some of what Kathleen Dihep said, which is we are required to negotiate and to cover our expenses and cover our needs. But we also need to go in with open eyes about this project. I will say that the project just makes my heart sink. I've got to tell you that. And, you know, we lost what would have been a very nice facility planned by the Yoshidehi on the waterfront because of this. With respect to even the portable office buildings, honestly, I look at that, and given that litigation is still happening, it feels like that move is a power play and less about being community oriented and working, quote, with community. With respect to the MOU, for now and looking forward, it's not too early to talk about traffic. And I think that we need to look at both the traffic that the construction of a small and then larger facility will have, and then whatever the visitor and employee traffic will have, combined with the traffic that we know is going to be going into the new Costco facility and the new homes behind that. So that whole area east of the freeway is going to have basically a traffic bomb with these projects potentially colliding. So that's very significant, and that needs to be worked into every step of the way. The rest of my other points are not in order of importance, but I will just, since I only have 3 minutes and 1 minute counting. Number two, I think it's important to look at when we talk about jobs, we need to differentiate between temporary construction jobs and ongoing service jobs. And we also need to differentiate between how many employees will be tribal versus residents in the community. I think it's really misleading to give this large jobs number and not differentiate between temporary versus ongoing and open to the public versus going to be for the tribe. Number three, I think that maybe not now, but moving forward, we need to look at the social and economic risk inherent in this kind of project in an urban area. And I would like to see community benefits around bankruptcy information and gambling disorder information. Both of those outcomes are typical in an urban environment with gambling. And finally, I will say I'd like a contingency bond in case things don't fly. And I see my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next and final speaker, Carol Heap. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Hi, good evening. I'm calling, to be honest, I didn't read the agenda before the meeting, but I've addressed this issue of tribal building a casino in Vallejo in the past when it was brought up about building a casino on the Mare Island. I'm particularly concerned about something different here, and that is where Vallejo is getting in the middle of a tribal land dispute between two Native American Indian tribes. And if we didn't know that before this meeting, we just were faced with it just right now. We saw the tribes in their dispute right in front of us, speaking to us. I think this is a bad place for Vallejo to be in the middle of this dispute. And I think that any involvement we should have with this going forward should be after the resolution of the tribal dispute. I think that's the only way to show respect for both tribes. Let the courts answer this question, resolve the conflict, so that we can go forward without taking responsibility one way or the other. I'm also concerned about some of the things that Ann Carr brought up about the Costco, the housing complex that's to be built, the traffic that's going to fill our streets on that northeast corner of the freeway going forward during construction, and then after construction with the operation of the casino. You know, I was speaking to somebody about this and they were excited about the casino. And they said, Vallejo needs jobs, you know? And I said, oh, wait, no, I've heard that the jobs that the casino is going to be hiring for will be positions that are going to be for their tribal members or Native American Indians. Those are the first priority of jobs seekers that will be hired. So whether or not they will hire non-Native American Indians from inside Vallejo is a whole different question. I also advised them that the land, that if it was sold, was sold to an
And that does it for our speakers.
All right, thank you very much. All right, seeing as that was our final speaker, we'll open it up to, let's open it up to council, and then we'll see if we have any specific, we'll ask our questions and then we'll come back to respond. Comments from my colleagues. Councilmember Gordon.
First, I just want to say a person that has multiple tribes within myself. I've heard all of them here. As it was mentioned earlier, it's not so much as would determine you being Indian by the tribe, you're either Indian or you're not, right? It's what was mentioned by Ms. Kim. I said that name right. And so, having said that, respect is really important to everyone, no matter who you are. You come to my house, you disrespect me, you're not welcome back, right? But I just wanted to say to both tribes that you have made impact in the community. And I feel like, as I mentioned to the representative from Yoshodidi, what do we do as Valleans? You know, we have no say. We can't have you sit down together and see how we can work this out. And because he said it's amongst family, so to speak. And so my ask is, if the other tribe is here, as we do before we do anything, we read a statement to honor the individuals who originally was on this land, right? And that's when we did the groundbreaking for everything in honor, and also as educational. So I would ask for you all to, would you consider doing something to honor the land that is on, as you said, it's your land and your ancestors too, if this was to move forward, since we have no say. I would also ask, is there any way that both of you can sit down with us? And I was told that that's a no, because it was mentioned earlier that it's in court, and you have to be careful about that, I guess. And so for me, it just it hurts to hear both of you come up and pour your heart out. And this feels like there's nothing I could do. I'm a mom. If I can't fix it, I feel useless. And so I would like to know what I could do to at least have both of you sit down just with us or with me and just talk. And if it doesn't go nowhere, okay, we tried. But that's what I would ask, because we want to be good neighbors to you, whoever you are. You've been here, and I really respect the both of you. You've been involved in my project that I had, and your presence was important to the kids. They didn't know what was going on, especially when you put the tennis shoes on and the basketball, almost broke your neck. You got out there and did the work. The kids didn't know about the battles. And how are we teaching our kids if we're not even setting that first example? But I know that's bigger than me. I get it. I apologize. I mean no disrespect in my comments. I just want to see how we can work together if that's possible. Because we don't want Vallejo to be stuck in the middle and be accused of not trying to be good partners to both of you and other tribes that we have honored. Just a thought. And then my last one I saw here, where was that at? And then also too, have anyone sat down with my colleagues' residents, which is District 1, Alex Mateus. Has anyone sat down with his residents to go over these conversations and these concerns? Because this is his district, and I want to make sure that he's part of the conversation as well. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Councilmember Matias.
Thank you, Councilmember Gordon. Hit it on the nail. I think the Lewis Group last month presented a project to us, and one of the first things I told the developer was, have you engaged my district? Have you talked to my constituents, to my neighbors? Have you told them what your plans are? Have you gotten any feedback from them? And so, I'm just going to put that out there for everyone that's in the room, not just the Scotts Valley tribe. You got to engage. You can't just come in when you need something. I'm going to start at the top, and then I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'll make a few comments so we can move right along. So one, just hearing the public comment, the one quote that stuck with me was Ms. Kim's quote, "You can't heal what you don't confront." You can't heal what you don't confront. And so I said in the last meeting when we were presented with a letter that I personally was not going to be weighing in on tribal matters, and today's not going to be the exception. But I think that that's a very powerful quote and statement made this evening that I think everyone should think about, because I don't think it's fair to Vallejo that we're getting caught up in the middle. So I'm just going to say that. And then as it relates to what's in front of us this evening, my first question to Ms. Hain is the following. Where are we with the assessments? Because I asked you that in May. What's the timeline? What do you have? What don't you have? What are you in a position to share with the council at this time?
So none of them have been finalized yet, but the ones that I listed, I'm hoping by the end of the year, by the end of December, everything will be completed except for the public safety, police, and fire. That one is it's like a 9-month timeline. So that one will be like probably Q2 2026. But the traffic, which does address circulation, infrastructure, analysis of the project, the construction, and the overall traffic in the area, that will be completed. The water analysis and infrastructure, the socioeconomic impacts and market impacts, all of those other studies will be completed by the end of the year, and we will bring those back to City Council for review.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking that is because, Ann Carr and some of the other folks that spoke to the traffic issues in my district and some of the other impacts, those impacts are very real, and we're feeling them right now with some of the other projects underway. And so, again, I feel very uncomfortable making decisions without information in front of me that would put me in a position to move something forward or to not move it forward. Mm-hmm. And here we are again with yet another decision in front of us where we don't have that information. So I appreciate the timeline, and I hope we can get that in by the end of the year, at least the ones you noted. Now on to your staff report. And the presentation. So one of the things I was reflecting on over the past couple of days was something I saw written in there. It said, that the tribe, in effect, would be receiving the same services that every Vallejoan is receiving. And that was a very interesting statement. I'm paraphrasing, so don't quote me to the T on it. But that to me was very interesting, and I'm going to start with police, because we just spent 8 months trying to get sheriff support, and now we're whipping around and saying, oh, we've got law enforcement support. We're going to provide this to you at a cost reimbursement. We actually don't have law enforcement support. We just went to the sheriff to get temporary assistance for 1 year. Mm-hmm. So what are we really doing? I don't know how we can, with a straight face, tell the tribe we're going to provide that assistance when we can't even provide that level of servicing to our own residents. So, that's out the table from my vantage point. And I would just leave it to the council to think about that. We just spent 8 months lobbying the county to get sheriff support because we cannot adequately keep our own residents safe. Our response times are well over 11 minutes, and we're telling the tribe, yeah, no, we can definitely provide support. Now, there's a reason why I'm saying that, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. The next thing was water, and a lot of the other things that you noted. So you said there was a water tank and this and that. There's infrastructure. Anytime there's a project, there's infrastructure costs. You know the financial position that the city's in, and I'm not trying to get caught up in a loop where we're having to pay for things when we just frankly don't have the money. We're making decisions. It's trade-offs. Every meeting we're having to make trade-offs, and the decisions are not good decisions that we're having to make. So when it comes to the MOU and just seeing some of the stuff that was on there, I was just like, yeah, I mean, if there was some world where we provided those services, the tribe would really have to come out and for a lot of that bill, if not all of it, and then some, because we're not in a position to do charity work. We're just not. So I'm going to leave that there. And then the last point I'm going to make is about just generally what has been going on, which I think is in some ways contributing to what you heard from both of the tribes this evening. So I have a slightly different perspective, and I voiced this to you in May. And I'm going to end with this. When the Vallejo City Council signed the cooperative agreement between the two governments, from my vantage point, and that's an opinion, not a fact, we were helping the tribe with their process. That's my opinion. When the letter came before us in May, and we voted to send it during the comment period, that was, again, the city of Vallejo helping with the process. People may say that we're not, but we are, because we're essentially saying we've sorted out all of these government-to-government issues, and so in the event that this gets approved, all these things are being ironed out. And yet today, again, we're being asked for the third time in almost a year, to sign yet another MOU, which, if we were to move it forward, is yet the city of Vallejo, again, in my opinion, quasi-interfering in a process that we have no say over, because we're again saying we're working with the tribe. I thought that by signing the agreement in November, we were already saying we were going to be good faith partners to the tribe. So all of these additional steps we're taking, from my vantage point, I get that there's we're trying to solve problems as they come up, but I do feel like we're interjecting into broader issues that are at play. And that are being decided upon. So I say this all to say, and I'll end here, that it doesn't feel good for me as an elected official when I'm having to react, and I've been doing a lot. There's been a lot of reacting that this council has had to do based on actions that are outside of our control or that perhaps the tribe is taking. Like now they want to build these modular offices. I had no say over that. I didn't even know it was going to happen. I just drove by the district. I saw a tower up, and then I saw construction crews. And so I don't want to, and since the tribe is here, I'm just sharing this with you. It's not a good feeling to, especially when we have staffing, resourcing constraints, and we're very focused on safety right now. We're very focused on addressing homelessness. We're very focused on paving our roads. We're very focused on all these very concrete safety issues, to have to be reacting to decisions that you guys are making without us really being informed or having any collaboration or input or say as to how these things are happening. And so just from a relationship standpoint, I would really appreciate nation or government to government if there was more collaboration between our parties, because it doesn't feel that way, and it's not conducive to a fruitful working relationship. So that's where I'll leave it. I'm happy to hear what my colleagues have to say, and then I'll be ready for a vote.
Thanks. Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the tribes for being here. I want to focus us back on what the actual agenda item is, and that's the MOU. I think that there's been a lot of talk and a lot of push for, we need to negotiate traffic and we need to negotiate all the different things that come with the potential of having the casino and those types of things, but that's not what this discussion is about. This discussion is about them having the right to put whatever buildings they want to put on their land, and this is about protecting the city's interests. And when you talk about that, it's not that, so as an example, your questions about the law enforcement and the police, and yes, we had to have the sheriff come in. They're very well aware of this, right? And this is protecting our interest, and it's not so much that the crime is necessarily happening on that tribal land. That crime is going to spill over to the city. It's going to cause investigations by our police department, and that's going to cause, detective work and all those different types of things that has to be built into this MOU to protect those costs, to protect the staff time, to protect the cost to the police department for doing those investigations, because they could hire security guards themselves and not have an MOU with us. They'll shake them off their property, and then it becomes Vallejo's problem. This is a way to mitigate that so that we make sure that we recover our costs as part of that crime. The same thing with the water. They could truck in their own water and have a tank put in and have their own water, but it's probably safer to use our municipality and use our water sources and make sure that the disposal of that water is done correctly and those types of things. So this is all in a means of protecting our interests and making sure that in the long run, we don't have higher costs as a city because we decided that we weren't going to, quote unquote, provide them charity or whatever terms that you used. It's not providing them charity. This is protecting our interests, and that's the point of the MOU, is to make sure that the city recovers our costs, that we take into account the staff time, the resources for all of those different departments, and that's built into this so that we can recover our costs. It's not about doing charity work for a tribe. It's not about helping the tribe, because they can do this without us. They could go ahead and just move forward and figure out these problems on their own. Sure, it makes it easier for them to just do a contract with us. It's probably going to cost them a lot more money to do contracts with us, to be quite frankly, but that's part of being a partnership. And so I have no problem in moving forward with an MOU to protect our city interests and making sure that we recover our costs for these services.
Thanks. Councilmember Letashew.
So I agree it's important to recover cost, and I agree that why we're here, as Councilmember Bergenzer stated, and yet I also agree there's another part to this, that we wouldn't be discussing that other part if there was a presence where we felt there was transparency. If I recall, when we agreed to do the last memo of support, we were really clear as a council that nothing should move forward, no more negotiations without really having discussion with council. So yet again, we're bringing forward an MOU, and yet again, we were caught off guard that there was breaking on that ground. And it is true that it is sovereign land, and the tribe doesn't need us to do anything. Everybody has acknowledged that. But at the same time, there's been an acknowledgement that the tribe would like, Pomo tribe, would like to work with us. And I stand from this seat and say to city staff, to the city manager, we did request better communication. And when you don't have good communication and you bypass, this is what you get on the dais. So just like the two tribes just came and aired out some of their differences, we're sitting here today as a council airing out our differences with our city manager, I'm not going to be kind about it, and with our ACM. We requested that there would be better communication around this process, that we would not be caught off guard. It's not comfortable. You don't get to give me a memo, a heads up on the same day that the breaking is going to happen. I'm just going to put it out here because it was being kindly said by Councilmember Matias, but I'm just going to be honest about it. It doesn't feel kind. It doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel collaborative, and it doesn't feel inclusive. So we're all sets on both sides are sitting here airing out how we feel about what just happened. And it does not does not negate the fact that if we're going to be in relationship, that we have to have an MOU where we recover our cost. And it does not negate the fact that we have to have community benefits as this goes forward. But it needs to be done in conjunction properly with this council. And so this is not to the tribes. I am addressing us as a council. I don't appreciate it. And it's unacceptable to be treated this way as a member of this council by our city staff. We need to communicate better so that we are all on the same page moving forward. We don't have to break the Brown Act. The city manager can communicate with us via email as things are moving forward. Here's what's going on, so we're clear. We have one-on-ones with you, so we're clear of what is going on as it relates to this really important, significant project that's potentially coming to our community. Additionally, when we make a motion, I'm going to add to that motion, yes, I do agree that we have to have this. But at the same time, I also agree that we need a consultant to come on board. We talked about that. And there needs to be a community side to this as we continue to move forward and have all these discussions. Not just by the tribes having a discussion, but it's also facilitated through our city as well, so that we fully understand from our city community what is it that they're expecting, what are their concerns, and how we're addressing this. These are very significant times. This is a significant project, and it's very important because it has a lot of impacts. I worked once for the Department of Gambling when gambling first became popular in California, and there are laws that have to be followed. There are types of counseling that needs to be provided and available. There are many things that we have to consider because there are positive impacts and there are negative impacts to the community when we bring in gambling. And so we have to be prepared for all of it, but we can't do it in this way.
Thank you. Councilmember Matulik, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at this more in a and whether I'm oversimplifying this. It's for me, it's the fact of we are 7 votes up here that speak for 120,000 people. And in my mind, the fact that we in essence don't really have that much of a say over what can or can't happen on this piece of property because it's sovereign land. But my goal is at least we have a voice and we're part of the conversation. And if they're willing to listen to us and talk to us, and I'm not just speaking for Scotts Valley, I'm speaking Yoshi Dehu or any other tribe that's going to come to us that's going to be within our Vallejo city limits. I'm wanting to have these conversations and be a part of the conversation, and we talk about respect. This is about the mutual respect of people in Vallejo with whoever wants to help support what Vallejo stands for. And so as long as we're part of that conversation, that's what I'm looking forward to. So that's where I land on is I need to be speaking on part of as a Vallejoan. I want to be a part of those conversations, and people that are willing to have us part of that conversations, I'm looking forward to moving forward with that.
All right, thank you all. I'll go and then we'll go back over to Councilmember Matias. So I've been, I got questions about the casino development during the campaign. I got questions about the casino. I'm sure you did too, Councilmember Matias. It was one of the top questions I was getting at a certain point. And have taken care to be very consistent since coming up here. I do not want to get involved in a sovereign land conversation. I don't want to be taking a side. I don't think that's respectful of the process. And I've been very upfront and consistent that I don't want to get involved, and I want to let the process play out. I tend to agree with Councilmember Matias. I do think the city of Vallejo took a side. That's an opinion. And I would have waited, and I really would like the process to play out. In this case, my concerns are actually pretty aligned with my colleagues, which is, we are dealing with constraints, and we have a federal process still in progress. We have litigation in progress. I understand wanting to, seeing the opportunity and wanting to be proactive, but we also have a serious lack of capacity in this city and a lot of things that we're dealing with and a lot of things that we need to balance. And I don't think we should move on a project that is still undecided, that we don't know the status of, and I would be curious to know the studies that are all in place, the environmental reviews and all that. Is that for the full casino that doesn't have a gaming license approval yet? Are we doing it for both? Like, there's just so many questions at play, and we have so many other things in the pipeline that I don't see this vaulting to the top of the list of priorities. I actually see it being pretty near the bottom until it gets decided, particularly given that we have all these other economic development priorities that have been idle for years, and the Mare Island specific plan being one of them. I've thought about that often, actually, because Mare Island Company submitted their specific plan to the city prior to the signing of the collaborative agreement, and yet this somehow has moved farther and faster, it feels, and we've gotten more updates. So it could be a communication thing or an external thing, but I think in the eyes of at least myself as a new member of the council, I've heard more about this than I have about that, and that process has been in progress for several years. You've got Blue Rock and Solano 360 and the waterfront and the post office and Sperry Mill, and we have the ship stuff that we're going to be talking about in the next item, and we do have limited capacity. Like, we talk about it a lot, how we have limited time and limited resources, and if we had unlimited resources, I might say, sure, let's be proactive. We know that this is going to be in trust either way. We want to make sure that we do something beneficial for the community, but we don't have time right now to do all of the things we do have control over. We're having to negotiate a lot of things right now. We're strained very thin, and I am personally in favor of deprioritizing until the federal decisions play out. And I would agree with my colleague, the staffing constraints in PD and fire, the idea of providing services via an MOU, maybe we could handle water. I don't know. I would need far more information about the capacity of those departments, and PD was a hard no for me, because I think if we're telling our community we don't have time to respond to your call for service because we don't have capacity, our problem isn't money. Our problem isn't budget in PD and fire, it's staffing. And so for us to then say, hey, we're going to go provide services to this additional area, that message that sends to our community, not just, maybe it's only a small amount, but we're also then negotiating that agreement, enforcing that agreement, and doing all that work. And what's the opportunity cost of that work? What are we missing out of because we've spent the time doing this while it's still being litigated and we don't even know what we're potentially dealing with? So it's not, and I've had many conversations. I've spoken with both tribes. I'm not going to get involved in a sovereign lands decision. And it's not that we want to do this or don't want to do this or anything like that. In my case, it's a prioritization thing with so much still up in the air. I would prefer to let the process play out and focus on the things that we can control and the things that we don't have to wait for a federal decision to move, where we can get real results for our residents. And then 6 or 12 months from now, or whenever the final decision comes on the gaming eligibility, we'll be in a better position to then go and have a collaborative working relationship, should that be the direction that we go. So that's where I'm at, and I'll kick it back over to Councilmember Matias and then over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think the city manager, were you trying to get in? I'm sorry. Everyone else is using the green lights and I didn't see you.
Sure, yeah, happy to do that whenever. I just wanted to respond to some comments that were made that I don't think characterize city staff's work in a way that I think is accurate. I think we notified the city council as soon as we were aware. So we notified the city council the same day that we were aware that this construction was going to begin. So I think some other council members had made comments about communication between the city and the tribe and doing community work and all of that. But we didn't have an opportunity to, again, we communicated to the city council that the construction was going to begin the same day we learned it. So I don't think we had an opportunity to do that any further in advance. So I don't think I just want to clarify that. One other thing, the direction that the city council gave was not to negotiate with the tribe an agreement beyond what we had already discussed. We have not negotiated an MOU. In fact, we're bringing this item to you specifically to get your direction on whether we should. So in my view, were following to the letter the direction of the city council. So the characterization that here we are again because city staff got out in front of the council, I think is very inaccurate in this specific case. We reached out to the council specifically to find out if you wanted to take this interim step of directing us to negotiate the MOU. So I think we've been very respectful and very cautious to make sure that we did not get out ahead of the council on this. I really think that's important to state for the record.
Thank you for clarifying. All right, back over to Councilmember Matias.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Murray. So I was actually looking at my email, and you guys, so going back to the communication piece, you guys sent us a note about it on September 9th, and it's the 30th, right, today? So just thinking about it from a construction standpoint, can you really whip around the operation that I've seen kind of take place at that location in 2 weeks? I don't know. Hold on. I'm not saying anything about city staff. I'm just saying, again, if you guys were notified on the 9th, right? If you guys were notified on the 9th, the amount of like manpower and like machinery I've seen and the tower and all that other stuff in 2.5 weeks, I'm like, man, you guys are great, highly efficient. I love it. And also, that takes a level of planning that there's no way that you guys just decide on September 9th, we're going to do this, and then by the 30th, everything is going to be up and running. If that was to play out through our city process, that there would have been permits you would have pulled, you would have had to go in front of planning. All these steps would have taken place over many months, and that's why I feel like it doesn't feel collaborative, and we're being asked to make decisions. It's not, there's a nuance to this, City Manager Murray, because it's not that necessarily you're not being respectful of the council. It's more that we're being reactive and we're being asked to make decisions on things that don't necessarily seem like they're just being thought through and done on the fly. There's a lot of planning and execution that's happening perhaps months before that we're not being looped into, and that's the piece that I would hope that we can do better on a go-forward basis, because I don't want to see this body, how do I say this? I don't want the city council to be seen like we are interjecting ourselves in other lawsuits and other things that are happening that are way beyond what we're deciding and what we're acting on, because someone else is planning and making decisions and doing things in a certain way, and then we're having to make decisions on the fly. Like that, I don't think that feels fair to us, and I just don't think that that's respectful, and that's all I'm saying in relation to this. That's why I've said every single time there's been a project in my district, you've got to engage community. You've got to give me advance notice, because I start getting questions from my constituents. Like, I've gotten emails about it, and I'm like, I don't know. I just found out, like everyone else did. So that's why this feels a little bit icky. It's not that I'm not for collaborating with the tribe, and in a world where, they give you the MOU with all the pieces, and they tell you they're going to cover the infrastructure and all the things and then some, that it's done. But like, your ED is understaffed by I don't know how many FTEs. We have vacancies across our entire agency, and yet we continue to react to this issue that I don't really see why there's like a rush behind it, because there's decisions that still have to be made. Like, so again, why can't we wait a month and a half until we find out from the feds? Like, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, and that's what feels a little bit uneasy. And then the last point, I just want to respond to the vice mayor. So you guys have been working with me for 8 months. I'm not trying to kind of say things politically correct or massage how I'm saying what I'm going to say. I said the thing about the city of Vallejo not doing charity work, not in the sense of not doing charity work for the tribe. That's not what I meant. It's just that we do not have the financing to invest in infrastructure right now or to do anything that would put our resourcing at play, right? Because it's so limited, and then our dollars that we're like really having to make every single meeting decisions around. So it's not in any way trying to disrespect the tribe. It's more like we don't have the funding right now, and it's about trade-offs. So that would have to be a part of some MOU in addition to their service fees, right? So that was all I was saying. Thank you.
All right, we'll go back to the vice mayor and then Councilmember Leteju.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Just for clarity, this MOU is only for the police and the water and the emergency services for the 2 temporary buildings, correct? We're not negotiating the MOU for the full-on project with the casino and the hotel and what that would entail for water, what that would entail for sewer, what that would entail for police and fire. It's only these two the 2 temporary buildings, is that right?
Correct. It would just be for the 2 offices. The MOU was not part of the packet. They have given us a draft and are willing to pay the fees and the services and all of those things, but we haven't had those negotiations because we wanted to check with you first to see if that was the direction you wanted staff to take.
Yeah, so the larger negotiation for that
Is
MOU will
separate.
come after all of that project is approved and they're
Correct.
moving forward, and then we negotiate those larger.
Correct.
This is only, there's no point in waiting to decide whether that is going to happen or not, because these buildings are going up, whether they get approved for their casino gambling or whatever, right? Am I understanding that correctly? So this
Correct.
is truly to make sure that we are covering our costs to the city for what's already happening, whether we approve it or not, right? These costs are going to be incurred. So I think we're losing the fact that we're getting too wrapped around the wheel about that this is the whole big project, and it's not the whole big project. This is 2 temporary buildings that the tribe is putting on their own property, and we're negotiating to make sure that we can cover our costs associated with them having those buildings there. It's not the full-blown negotiations. And I just want to make sure that everyone is real clear about that, because I wanted to make sure I was clear myself. Thank you.
Councilmember Leteju.
I'm just going to respond to the city manager, and as it relates to when you learned at the last minute, I had heard it and I brought it to your attention in a meeting with you. And I'm going to go back to the point that Councilmember Matias made. There's no way that somebody can move as quick as the project has moved for these 2 buildings without planning being done. So that means that either you all aren't talking and you're waiting till the last minute, I'm just going to say it, or somebody's talking in the office, because I told you I heard it, and you're just not getting the information. So however it is, it really doesn't matter. My point, the point that I made, I'm not retracting it. It stands. We need to better communicate, whether it's your staff needs to better communicate with you because you didn't know it when I brought it to you, whatever that might be, it needs to be done much better. Because when we get on the dais, we can have a different conversation. We're not worried about, did we get noticed, how we feel about not being noticed. And that's really important when decisions are made to this council. And so thank you for bringing the MOU and not moving forward without us, but there's still conversation. And as it relates to, as Councilmember Bergenser brought forward, the reality is we do have to recover our cost. And I agree that we have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we're going to have policing for our own community. And one of the things that I'd like to put on the table is we do have a private security guard contract, and that is a piece that we can always add to much easier if we choose not to use our the limited police force that we have. So there are alternatives and different things that can happen in regards to safety.
Thanks. Councilmember Gordon.
I'm going to take a little small risk here. May I ask the representative from UCD come up, please? You want lift it up. Thank you.
Oh, you're going to make me work this thing again.
Thank you.
All right.
You're not opposed of us asking to be recovered for our services. You're not opposed to that, right?
Oh, are we opposed to the city recovering the costs of services it provides?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? No, if the city chooses to provide services, the city should be paid for that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I wanted
Does
to
that
know.
help?
Yes, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I think our concern is whether to provide them in the first place, rather than whether the city should be paid if they're provided. I hope that's helpful.
Yes. And are you opposed to what I have said out loud before of us communicating?
Yes, we're always happy to communicate with the city. No problem at all.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, I'll jump back in after the discussion, and I actually do want to ask the couple of follow-up questions because I'm ending up with more questions than I started with. So, am I to understand that the city learned about the construction of the tribal offices the day that the groundbreaking happened? When did the city learn about the construction of the tribal offices?
Let me clarify. So when we sent the original email, September 9th is when we knew that it was moving forward. The day that the construction start date happened and the tribe issued a press release, they sent it to us first, and that's when we knew that they were actually breaking ground. Originally, they had thought they would do it closer to the 15th, but it came out a little bit later. They sent us the press release. And so, yes, I do agree, and we talked about improving communication, but as soon as we knew, we sent it to City Council, absolutely.
So I think I don't want to speak for my colleagues, I think that's an area where the communication could be improved because even if we didn't know the date of the groundbreaking, I can speak for myself, I did not realize there was any construction that was going to be happening on that site. And if there was conversation about potentially even going forward with tribal offices, just an update, we're not talking about intervening or having control over it, but just an update would be nice rather than driving by that site and seeing a sign go up and
That was
bulldozers
the
and
September
construction
9th. The September
equipment.
9th communication was that update.
And
That
the ground-
potential construction would be
Which was the day
forthcoming,
that
and
it
we didn't know the
ground
date.
broke.
No, September, I'm sorry, what date did the groundbreaking happen? September, Alex, 19th? 19th. So we emailed you on the 9th. We didn't know the date of the groundbreaking. It was on the 19th.
And would it be accurate? Again, I just am trying to give examples of how we
Yeah,
can improve communication.
of course.
How long prior to that were we in conversations with the tribe about them constructing offices?
So as soon as we knew that they were going to move forward with the process on the 9th, we let you know.
So the city found out on the 9th?
I believe
about
that
the
was the date. I'd
offices.
have to double
Okay.
check the meetings that I had, but it
Okay.
was that day. I'm almost 100%
Okay.
positive that we sent that messaging out.
I appreciate that. And then the question from earlier, I do actually want to ask. So the analysis
September
that you
9th.
mentioned that you said would be done by the end of the year, are those for the full casino vision, the 8-story, everything, presuming they get the gaming license? And then if it is, then what's the consequence if they don't get the gaming license? Is all that work then wasted time?
So a couple points of clarification. So thus far, the impact studies are for the full build-out of the full project. The tribe has been involved in a reimbursement agreement with the city. They're paying for everything.
Right.
So if we do the analysis, say Fair and Piers is doing traffic, and we've done the whole traffic analysis, and we have a result, and we have a report that says, these are the impacts, and here's your proposed mitigations that we think will lessen those impacts. It's paid for, it's done, we don't move forward with it if the gaming compact doesn't move forward. In the interim, while we're talking about potentially negotiating, it would be my recommendation to have water, police, and fire consultants who are looking at the larger impact of the scope of the larger project, take a look at the offices and give us a smaller impact analysis and assessment so that we could know not only the water connection fees and paying for the water itself, but what else is impacting the city and how can they reimburse us for that as well. That would be my suggestion if we move forward in any sort of negotiations. Same with potential security, potential police, whatever those are, that those consultants tell us what the office's impact would be. Now, to put a little perspective in it, this property is part of what was a prior proposal for Solano Ranch, which was a larger project with a hotel and apartments and retail, serving retail. And that project was already through the issues letter, and we were looking at conditions. And there were capacity at that time for a larger scale project for city services. But this is a different project, so I would ask that the analysis be done on just the offices, but just gives a little perspective of what we looked at initially on this property prior to the tribe owning it in trust.
I appreciate that clarification. And I think the point that I was making earlier that I'll make again now is that for me, if we don't have resources, if we're constrained in staff capacity to manage projects and do negotiations and get things approved and go through all the various offices that this stuff has to go through, that even if a service is being provided or paid for, reimbursed by a developer or partner entity, there is still a cost to the taxpayers, even if it's an opportunity cost, in terms of the time that was spent negotiating all of those reimbursement agreements with the tribe for this development. Could that time have been spent processing the Mare Island specific plan or hiring the consultant for that or working on something else? And I think that's the angle that I really want to highlight here. I remember mentioning when we had the item back in May with the letter, seeing that staff were having, the note that staff were having bi-weekly meetings with the tribe and wondering, well, wow, given all of our priorities, is that the best use of our time, given that this is in active litigation? And I think at this point, my position is like, we've got the litigation going on, the gaming license hasn't been done, the city's capacity constrained. I would say, if we had the resources, great, we could go ahead and move forward. But in the line of priorities for me, I'm not comfortable negotiating an MOU at this time, which wouldn't preclude us from doing it in the future. But I would rather focus on the stuff that we can control. And then I do agree with my colleagues that the hiring of external, as much as we can hire and lean on external consultants to protect our own capacity, the better. But I think at some point we have to be mindful of our constraints. And I think there's a conversation we can have about prioritization another time, and how we make sure that we see everything through to the finish and we're not spinning so many plates that we never actually get anything done. I'm not seeing anyone else speaking. Do we have any other comments, or do we want to go ahead and entertain a motion? We might be ready for a motion.
All right. I move that we receive the information regarding the Scotts Valley Band of Promo Indians, trust land, and proposed development. And I move that we direct the staff to negotiate a memorandum of understanding regarding the services for the interim development of the tribal offices.
All right. Thank you. So we can vote on that. And it looks like I'm seeing Councilmember Ledeji reaching. She did say she was going to offer an amendment earlier. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. So I'd like to offer a friendly amendment, because the reality is the tribe is here, the land is there, and there's going to be 2 buildings. And if we're spending time inevitably. So I would suggest that as it relates to safety, we have a contract with security guards to consider augmenting that contract, that perhaps those types of services definitely would be feasible. And then as it relates to, water and I'll just leave it right there. And on top of that, I'm adding that we should bring in a consultant to be able to help move this work forward.
So the amendment is to entertain the option of security guards as part of the police services in the contract, and then have a consultant manage it. And Vice Mayor, are you amenable to that as a friendly amendment?
I just wanted to add for clarity, because the security guards sure could augment, but the police can only do police work themselves. And so you're saying to add the security guards on top of the police have to say what they can and cannot provide, but you're saying that we would augment it in addition with the security guards, not replace the police with security.
Right, so the same thing that we're doing with our own, because I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking out loud. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about 2 buildings, right, and they're building, there's nobody there per se, other than construction is going on and so forth and on, and really being able to keep that construction site safe and so forth and on. Generally, when you have a construction site in order, moving forward, there are security guards there. And so versus the tribe saying, oh, we're going to, do our own thing. We're coming to the city asking for an MOU, asking for services. So I'm thinking you could have augment our security contract for however many, whatever is appropriate for security to be out there 24/7, whatever the case may be. And then if it's just that they have to have police, then you're calling, but it would be less likely because you have 24-hour security guards or whatever is needed to secure that site. So that's the framework from which I'm looking at.
All right, I'm seeing the city attorney. Do you have a legal point on that proposed motion?
I do. I do not know whether or not the tribe plans to have security guards of their own, but we could write it in the alternative within the MOU to address, either they hire or they augment our hire of security guards. So that is a two-phased, I suppose, option that could be considered by the city council.
Okay, so we have an understanding. I see you, Councilmember Gordon. If it's a clarifying question on
It
the
is.
amendment, otherwise we've got to vote on it. Go ahead.
Clarifying, have we asked security, could they do that or not? Do they have a choice to do that or not? Because we said it, number one. And number two, I can see the concern because right now, on the outside, there are tents being set up. So I can see the concern. But for clarification, could we ask our security to do something that we haven't even talked to them about yet? Just for clarification.
Yes, through the mayor, we can ask them to augment their scope and get an estimate from them.
All right, so with that, I think we have a motion. I ended and I think we'll need to restart the vote. Everybody clear on what we're voting on? All right. Councilmember Matula, clarifying questions.
We're doing the amended first.
We're doing the amended first, yeah. Or no, it's one motion because it's a friendly amendment to that motion. Yep. Go ahead.
But if I heard the city attorney correct, the MOU would cover any potential augmentation of potential security or police action. So my question is, does her friendly amendment add to what the original motion is, or is it basically stating the same thing?
Actually, that has brought up something for me that I'll ask Councilmember Letajou. Are you hoping that the city would include the security, or would you be proposing something like asking the tribe to provide security guards as part of the MOU? Because they could do that directly rather than having to go through the city. Is that what you're asking? Okay.
So I'm not asking the tribe to do it. They've asked us for safety, water, I forget what the other things are. And what I'm saying is, because it is true that we have limited capacity as it relates to our policing. And one of the things that we're doing is augmenting some of just security in our city by bringing in security guards. We have a contract, a security guard contract that we could augment and provide through our contract, the tribe paying for it, additional security guards. It's a construction site. No one's living there. We're building. It's not unusual to have security guards at a construction site. So I'm just, as a way of being collaborative and in partnership with the tribe, I'm saying this is one way that we can help with the security and safety.
All right, with that, are we clear? That's an okay friendly amendment? All right, we are ready to vote.
We have a tie vote, so the motion is basically dead. There are 3 ayes and 3 noes.
All right.
So what does that mean?
Well, we're now actually genuinely at an impasse, aren't we? Because an alternate motion would also probably tie 3-3. Does anyone have any suggestions?
We can make an alternate motion. It's a no vote.
Councilmember Gordon.
I'd like to know what is it that our colleagues who voted no would settle with to be able to say yes?
Go ahead, Councilmember Matulik.
Yeah, so I'm speaking of this from a, if we're talking about a construction site, from a construction standpoint, is most construction sites have their own security. So you're not requiring the city or any other municipality to cover your specific construction site. So this is where, in my mind, that the tribe can help support their own, if they do have security issues or concerns there, they can provide the, in my mind, once again, looking at it as a construction site, they don't need city services to help augment or supply that. They should be able to farm that out to a vendor themselves.
Okay, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Just as a point of clarification, this is just giving the city permission to negotiate what they need for security services. So the tribe can say, we're going to do our own construction security, or they can say, we want you to do the whole thing. That's for the city to negotiate with them. We're just giving the city permission to negotiate, because our prices might be too high. The security might be too high of a cost, and they'll find somebody else to do it. Fire may be too high of a cost, and they may negotiate with Fairfield to provide fire services. It all just depends on what those price points are, but this is just giving the city permission on our behalf to negotiate those items that the tribe has requested and get a fair price. That's all that this is approving.
I'm going to kick it back to staff. I see both the ACM and city manager. I think you were first.
Through the mayor, just
Yeah.
to clarify, the tribal team just informed me they currently have 24/7 security at the construction site right now. But they're willing to negotiate moving forward the augmentation of security with police services moving forward if that's necessary. Yeah.
City manager, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to mention, I think to Councilmember Matulik's point, a yes vote on that last motion would have allowed the city staff to negotiate with the tribe for reimbursement for police services or security services, and it would be at the tribe's discretion to decline the city's offer of arranging security services. So if you had voted yes, that would have allowed the city to offer that, but the tribe would have been able to decline it if they already have security, which it sounds like they do. It's not obligating the city to provide private security through our contractor.
All right. Councilmember Letters, did you have something else? You're still a hot mic.
Oh, okay. So we're just dealing with the policing on it. What about the water?
No, we have to do a whole new motion.
So a whole new motion for the water and so forth and on.
Oh, that motion was just for police and fire? No. Wasn't for, that motion was for everything, right?
It
was for everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought.
Everything.
So if
Okay.
you want to have a motion,
Okay.
do a new motion.
Okay.
Do any of
So can
I was going to say, do any of the no votes
I mean, I'll make a motion.
propose a different
Well,
Sure.
can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
To the council, if that patch of land catches on fire and they have to wait for Fairfield, and we have not offered, I just need us to think about that. If that includes fire, I will say that. So we need to think about what this looks like.
Station House 25 is right there. They will respond.
Not without an MOU.
Okay. I already voted the way I voted, and that's it. Can I just add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to say one thing. This is the second time we're talking about the tribe, right, this year since I took office, and I've said the same thing. So I would just invite you guys to really look at the tape in terms of what I said in May and what I said this evening. To me, this is very clear, folks. There needs to be genuine collaboration and relationship building. And I, for too long in this city, have seen the same script play out over and over and over again. We're always voting on things. Oh, last minute, we have to get something done. And it's like, how do we work together in partnership? How do we work together in partnership? How do we make sure, the sitting council member for that district is given a heads up before something's done? There's no way that was turned around in 2.5 weeks. I mean, if you guys turn that around in 2.5 weeks, please work for the city. Whoever was behind that effort. I don't mean that to the chairman. not you. But whoever was behind that effort, please apply. We have a lot of openings because it just defies logic, and I just want us to start at zero. We already voted to have a cooperative agreement with the tribe. That's already making its way. It was voted unanimously, 7-0 last November. And so those things are working themselves out. That's all I'm saying in relation to this. Things change in a month and a half, 2 months. We can entertain additional conversations, but we can't keep doing the same thing, folks, and expect a different result. That's my final comment on how we're doing business.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I would suggest then that we postpone this vote until we have the full council.
Councilmember Gordon, I saw your light too.
I recall there was a fire on the other side, right, just recently. And I'm happy that we had service for that. But what would happen if the fire was on the side this is at? We cannot that would not be right either. That we just let, because then it affects other parts of our Vallejo. But I don't want to step on your toes as my colleague. We do have to have compassion. What we're talking here has nothing to do with them there. What we're talking here about how A should be done, B should be done, it has nothing to do with them, as they're admitting to themselves, both of us, with heartfelt pain, which I felt it, that what they're going through has nothing to do with us. We're just asking to be reimbursed. That's all. Nothing more. If somebody provided service, I would like to be reimbursed. But if right now, I just heard someone say if a fire take place, we just got to let it burn because we cannot go on tribal land. That's what I'm asking my colleague here to think about. And that would affect your Hiddenbrook area if a fire was to take place, if I'm not mistaken. I'm good with a little bit of math and mapping, but I'm just concerned as well for that side if something should happen. And as I stated earlier, right now, I was just over there, there's tents stacking up on the outside of that fence where the horses used to be. So I'm just asking my colleague to think about that. And I don't want to step on your toes as respect of, but if we can make as you commonly always do, a friendly amendment.
I see Councilmembers Matulik and Ledeju. I'll
Thank
turn
you.
it over. Yeah, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Matulik.
So as a point of clarification, the friendly amendment that I heard was specific for private security. Was I mistaken on that? Yeah. It was adding the private security. So so with a tie vote that went down or that was approved, or it went down. So then we go back to the original motion of the entire MOU, correct?
That would be the case if it was, that would be the case if it was an alternate motion, but it wasn't. It was an amendment. It was one motion.
So then that's where I misunderstood what that amendment was.
Do you want to make the original motion?
Yes, I would like to make the original motion of the MOU. Yes, of Vice Mayor Bergenzer's original motion of receive an update on the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians trust land and proposed development and direct staff to negotiate a memorandum of understanding regarding services for the interim development of the tribal offices.
Okay, so we have that motion on the table now. Councilmember Ledeju, you did have your light on from before. Did you have another comment before we vote?
I want to say this to our city attorney. Without this motion being done, right, Councilmember Matias says there's Station 25 there. I don't know where the station is. But still, without an MOU with that station, if something's burning over there, they're not coming.
So as
Clarity on, no, I want clarity on that.
So as sovereign land, they do not have the the right to go on to the property, but if given permission, they would. So what would likely happen under those circumstances would be, certainly if the tribe called and granted them that permission and said, we have a fire, please come, they would come. That's what I believe, to protect other areas in Vallejo. The chief isn't here, so he cannot speak to that. But that is with permission, which the MOU would grant what I will call advance permission, and a methodology to pay for those fire services. But even absent that MOU to pay and granting the permission, if they granted permission in the moment, I believe the fire department would respond. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, unless they agreed to reimburse in the moment, but it's not well planned that
Let's
way.
go ahead and vote then. We have that original motion on the table, and let's go ahead and vote on that.
So that motion carries with Councilmember Machias and Mayor Soros opposed.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody that came out and spoke on that item. That is going to bring us to our second action item, and I'll ask do we want to take a short recess, or are we feeling okay? We're all right. We're going to power through. You go ahead, yeah. All right, I'll ask our city clerk to announce item B, please.
Receive information regarding shipbuilding in Solano County and nationally. Provide policy direction to city manager, and consider authorizing the forwarding of maritime industry in Vallejo white paper to the office of Representative John Garamendi for consideration.
All right, so we'll start public comment on this item. I think we already have, and we've got still our assistant city manager here presenting on this item.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. This next item is another update regarding shipbuilding and the maritime industry in the city of Vallejo. Next slide, please. So tonight we're going to go over the current ships legislation, which is draft and in process, and a request made by our representative, Congressman Garamendi. We'll be looking at opportunities in Vallejo, a draft outline of what we could potentially provide at the Congressman's request, a white paper that Mare Island Company has drafted on some existing facility opportunities, and then staff recommendation and next steps. Next slide, please. So in October 2024, the U.S. Navy issued a request for information for dry dock support for aircraft carriers. In December, a first version of Shipbuilding and Harbor Infrastructure for Prosperity and Securities Act was introduced. That's the SHIPS Act for short. March of 2025, California Forever did announce they plan to build a new shipyard in Solano County ranch land out in Collinsville. In April, the SHIPS Act was reintroduced to Congress, and there was a presidential executive order that was issued. It's much similar to the SHIPS Act legislation, but has greater emphasis on the defense industry rather than just commercial vessels. And then in August, Representative Garamendi held a meeting after a California League of Cities meeting here at Cal Poly Cal Maritime. And the city and some stakeholders met with Congressman Garamendi and talked about Vallejo and its position in the maritime industry, past, present, and future, and our role engaging the region's shipbuilding upcoming. Next slide, please. The SHIPS Act purpose and status. So it's focused on enhancing maritime workforce and industrial base by expanding the U.S. flag international fleet, making the vessels more competitive, investing in infrastructure and training programs to enhance that sector. The SHIPS Act aims to increase the number of domestic manufactured vessels from about 80 to 250 vessels and increase the U.S. merchant marine capacity. It does have bipartisan support as of now, and it establishes $250 million annually for financial incentives for shipbuilding and another $100 million for smaller shipyards, and also has a tax credit for investing in shipyard construction, infrastructure renovation. So it does call for some streamlining of environmental review of the ships yards and port facilities and infrastructure, and it is still currently pending in the legislative process. Next slide, please. Here in Vallejo, our land use policies out on Mare Island already encourage expansion of maritime industry. There is state and federal funding for infrastructure improvements, which can help with this development and benefit Vallejo. We have utilized Economic Development Administration infrastructure grant funding already to look at infrastructure on Mare Island, so that's going to be helpful as we move forward and looking at opportunities. We'll use that report, which will be coming to the council before the end of this year. Mare Island Company, the master developer on the island, is also supportive of this maritime industry expansion on the island. And the proposed maritime training programs could work really well with our existing maritime operators on the island, Mare Island Dry Docks and Lynn Marine, as well as other small marine industries out there, and then also with Cal Poly Maritime Academy programs. Next slide, please. So the city's been looking at an outline of what we could put together to identify the current capacity that we have here in Vallejo and where we could build that future capacity. Mare Island Company has also drafted the attached white paper to provide technical details and pictures of those existing assets on the island, including the dry docks, the piers, the shipways, the berths, the finger piers, the industrial facilities, and potential housing support. The city paper really needs to take a little bit higher level look and address our role in the region. So we would look at the Vallejo's maritime history and our existing facilities and expansion opportunities, but also be looking at our regional partners and collaborations and how Vallejo can support building that industry on a more regional level. And then also looking at those infrastructure improvement needs and potential funding opportunities to help this expansion. Next slide, please. So staff is coming before council tonight because we have had one meeting with Congressman Garamendi, another meeting with California Forever, listening to their Collinsville proposal. And at this point, we are before council to see if you would like staff to move forward with continued research and building that white paper background to help advertise Vallejo's opportunity as a regional partner and really a linchpin in this entire maritime industry. It's not about just one piece of the puzzle, be it Collinsville or Alameda or someone else, but it's really about the West Coast and what we can provide to tap into that ship's legislation and executive order so that we can assist with our government needs and then also build the industry here locally in Vallejo. And so in the staff report and in our draft outline of our white paper, we're really looking at all sorts of industries, not just the actual ship maintenance and ship building, but also the technical aspect of it, right? The green tech, the engineering, the design, the construction and architecture of the ships and the ship's maintenance. So these are all opportunities that we would like to outline moving forward if the council would like staff to proceed. So our recommendation is to work with consultants and potentially grant writers to engage our city lobbyists to help develop this in-depth maritime proposal for the congressmen that would support the SHIPS Act and create a working group with our partners. We have an internal staff working group we threw together in the last month, and we've been putting our heads together and our ideas on paper, and we'd like to create a regional working group with all the partners involved. I think longer term it will be more of an entity, a JPA or something where we're all working together with common goals to move these goals forward. And then we would be gathering more detail on the opportunities and the related industries, and then bring that back for the city council to review before forwarding on to our representatives. Next slide. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm here for any questions or direction.
All right. Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and take public comment on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 4 speakers in-house. The first one is Hunter Cobb.
Hello, Mayor and Councilman. Yeah, I'm Hunter Cobb. You haven't seen me before. I don't live here in Vallejo. I live in Alameda. But I'm very concerned about the economic development of the entire region. And I'm encouraged by this presentation by the, I guess it's the Assistant City Manager, because I think what's presented is very encouraging. But what I'd like to present is the potential for a much bigger vision of what's possible right now. Because I think with the new Trump administration, I mean, what's been presented with the SHIPS Act, I think is very good. But what President Trump and his team are talking about is really rebuilding the shipbuilding industry in this country. I mean, this area, Northern California used to be a powerhouse of shipbuilding. And we've lost that industry. Like we've lost a lot of industries over the last 50, 80 years. And it's not just the production of goods that we've lost. We've lost jobs that support families. We've become, in many ways, dysfunctional as communities because of the loss of industry. And I think what we have the potential to do, and I think this California for Forever project of building a major shipbuilding facility is a great idea. And I think, I don't know if you on this council know that one of the parts of the trade deal with South Korea is $150 billion is coming from South Korea to rebuild American shipbuilding. Now, a good bit of this is going to Philadelphia, some to Louisiana, but maybe it could go to Collinsville. I mean, we got to think big, because when you're talking 150 billion, I think that's a lot more than what's in the SHIPS Act. So I think we need to think much bigger. And so that's basically what I want to present. But I think the potential is really, really good now. And I think whether you like President Trump or not, I think the potential for across party lines working around this perspective is really good right now. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ned Narange. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Yes, my name is Ned Nergi. Pronunciation was quite acceptable, thank you. I also do not live here in Vallejo. I do drive through quite frequently. I live in Oakland, California. Oakland is known for its shipbuilding. Richmond for shipbuilding historically. You have an interesting paradox here in the discussion tonight, in that in this project, we have the possibility of putting the minds of the citizenry to productive work, where they can go to work and build their future, giving a demonstration to their family of what productive work is, as opposed to gambling. Now, I consider it a national insult that we in America, the United States of America, having a completely different mindset about who we, the people, are, opposed to that which we divorced ourselves from, meaning empire. The empire looks at us as their property. And here in this country, we are the sovereigns, not the emperor. And we, I propose, have done a disservice to the Native Americans here by having them be the corrupter of us all, with the idea of gambling, as opposed to knowing how to produce a ship or how to produce anything. It takes intellectual knowledge, understanding, and intention to produce our future. It is not a gamble. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Michael Hayes. I am Benicia resident, and but I was born here in Vallejo, and I lived in Vallejo for 40 years. I have to say I support the idea of bringing more shipbuilding to or ship repair to Mare Island. I am opposed to seeing a shipyard in Collinsville. There's nothing out there. It doesn't make any sense to put a shipyard out there. If a shipyard is built out there, I can pretty much guarantee that Mare Island probably and Vallejo will probably get crumbs tossed at the city because all the inertia will be out there. So if you're entertaining this advocating for shipbuilding, you needed to focus on how important Mare Island is. And that's where all the shipbuilding and ship repair should be centered. I was here when Mare Island closed, and I remember the efforts that were made to try and keep Mare Island open to Mincy money. I don't know if you remember that. But the thing that gets me really upset about the whole thing is that, interestingly, both of the agenda items tonight heavily involve the federal government. As a taxpayer, I'm extremely angry that the federal government bailed on the city of Vallejo 30 years ago. The Navy and the Marine Corps walked away from Vallejo, and now now it seems that Vallejo seems to get shafted in respects to all the attention being shown to Collinsville. The U.S. military should never have left Mare Island. They should have stayed here. They had a good apprenticeship program, and Mare Island had a pretty good reputation for doing quality work. I think it's a slap in the face to the city of Vallejo and to Mare Island that Collinsville is even entertained or even mentioned in this project. And I would strongly recommend not getting involved with California Forever. They are not a well-meaning company. They're your typical real estate speculator. And this city has been shafted every which way possible my entire lifetime by different government agencies, private entities, companies, you name it. And I think you people all need to get really angry and really stand up for Vallejo and Mare Island. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Kathleen Diop.
And as she approaches the podium, we do have two other speakers online.
Thanks.
Good evening. I want to bring this up in context to say this is actually doubling down on a land use decision that's in place. The land use plan on Mare Island supports industrial, but I want to also congratulate the staff for bringing this up now and bring it in front of you to make sure the council wants to double down on industrial on Mare Island. And a few of you may remember in my time at the city, Vice Mayor Gapo at that point brought together a coalition of cities, federal, county, everybody to look at how do you dredge the Mare Island Strait to substantiate the ship repair. And it got spun as all being about one cement plant. And it wasn't by any means, but I want you to, as a council, affirm tonight you support using Mare Island for what it was built for, to do repair and build ships. Garamendi, Congressman, be more respectful, Garamendi started the SHIPS Act, got on board with this long before Collinsville was on the sites. It's like they came around after. I don't know that the congressman needs the city to spend money on lobbyists or white papers per se. I mean, I'm surprised that Maryland Drive, the constituents who this would benefit aren't here, but the fundamental statement of this council saying we want to support and grow industrial, and we double down and support that land being used for how it's zoned so that people can go forward and do that would be excellent tonight. Again, you only have so many staff resources. If land is zoned for something and the private industry and private landowners hold it, they should be the ones out there advocating and chasing and lobbying. But I don't disagree with the things that have been shown in that draft staff report. I don't know what the congressman needs for that. I know several months ago, you were faced with the choice of whether or not to include the southern part of Mare Island in the effort to look at Fish and Wildlife taking back Mare Island. And there are many reasons that would have been a good idea. And I think your vision was colored by who's in the White House now. And it's an epic arc. Like the earlier speaker said, the federal government probably should not have abandoned Mare Island in all the ways. Like to declare a cemetery decommissioned doesn't really make sense. And it's great that the congressman got the VA to take that back. But what I'm saying here is the real thing you need to do tonight is say, yes, we support industry on Mare Island. And if your industry is asking you to lobby and to write staff reports and spend staff time on that, go for it. Perhaps even, but you've got to factor it into these other obligations.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's call our online speakers.
Okay, online speaker Jeff Dias, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay, hi, my name's Jeff Dias. Good to be here this evening virtually. I'm a Vallejo resident. I want to thank Congressman Garamendi for being open to feedback from the city of Vallejo on the prospects for the Mare Island Shipyard's development. There's been so much excitement in our county about shipbuilding this year. Unfortunately, most of it is centered on a hypothetical development of a shipyard near Collinsville. And that site, as has already been mentioned, is being developed, or at least it's being promoted by California Forever. Their interest there is not really based on a strong maritime business case. It's to promote their equally hypothetical city. I've done some research on shipbuilding generally and on the Collinsville site specifically, and I want to encourage anyone who seriously thinks that Collinsville could be a major shipyard to read the 1989 independent feasibility study that was commissioned by Solano County. It will scare away any sane investor, and it explains why the land is still vacant, undeveloped, and has been idle for over 50 years despite its maritime zoning. The fact is that the Collinsville shipyard is completely devoid of infrastructure. It has no roads, it has no rail lines. It's adjacent to the Sacramento River, but it's over 50 miles from the Pacific, and its channel depth is just 30 feet deep, severely limiting its ability to be a successful shipyard. And any dredging would threaten the sensitive Sacramento Delta. Whereas Mare Island, in our community, it's not hypothetical. It's an existing working shipyard with shipyard equipment, including cranes and dry docks. It has a standing, skilled maritime workforce, and it's in place and ready to expand. It has considerable infrastructure, which is the legacy of our past glory days. The channel's 35 feet deep, 5 feet deeper than Collinsville, and it's roughly half the distance from the Pacific. What Mare Island lacks right now is a clear, coherent vision of what its shipbuilding future should look like and a strong, local, active set of public-private partners willing to work together to make something happen. I'm sure that there are many differing perspectives in Vallejo about what Mare Island's future should look like and to what extent additional shipyard activity should be part of that. So I support the city beginning a new vision and conversation, and whatever the outcome is, what I want to express tonight is that Vallejo far and away is the better site for any future shipyard development in Solano County. If we decide we want more shipyard activity in our future, we need to not be overawed by the wishful marketing of the California Forever folks. Mare Island has the inside track. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last speaker, Ann C. Please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Hi, good evening, Council. It's me again, Ann Carr. So some great speakers have made some great points here, particularly this last speaker and then also the speaker from Benicia. I think I am from Vallejo. I live in Vallejo. I am a native Vallejoan, and I was alive when the shipyard was in process. Anything that can bring some jobs back to Vallejo is a good thing, provided that it doesn't harm existing residents and businesses, which of course was the problem with the cement plant. I think that the last speaker mentioned that for Vallejo to be successful, we need to have a clear vision of what we could be with respect to shipbuilding, and I think that'll be essential. And I think we also have to be realistic about some of the drawbacks from our side. One is when the Navy was still on Mare Island, it was all shipbuilding, but now we have this uneasy combination between homes, nice upscale homes, and industrial uses. And so we really need to be clear about keeping those boundaries. And I think some of that is going to be an uneasy alliance, because I think the people who bought into Mare Island are not necessarily seeing themselves as being part of an industrial environment, but it may be something that we have to emphasize just for the health and well-being of our city. Also, as I understand it, we will need dredging support. Furthermore, although we have shipbuilding facilities, I understand that much of our infrastructure is dated and it would need upgrading and renovation. Some level of investment is going to be needed. So we need to be realistic about that. And I think that one thing that we would need to emphasize is that job training needs to be part of any package. And by the way, if we can solve some of the issues that are presented by Mare Island, it maybe could be a model for how the private-public partnership proceeds on other Rust Belt cities, because that's essentially what Vallejo is. And then the final thought I have is, I think that Collinsville is a ridiculous idea in the sense of it's out in the middle of a field and it has absolutely nothing. However, there may be other shipbuilding pursuits within the Bay Area, and we should probably look at cooperating with them and not competing. So to the extent, if it exists, that there are other shipbuilding concerns in, say, Richmond, Oakland, and San Francisco, where we had fellowship before, we should look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for our speakers?
One more speaker.
right.
Melvin Cohen, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Melvin Cowan, Vallejo resident, D3. And, Vallejo's always been a maritime city for more than 150 years. I've talked to elders in the community, and to hear them talk about the past, I mean, like, you could just see the smiles on their faces. Mare Island built ships and built livelihoods. Today, we have a chance to bring that prosperity home again and make it work for Vallejo families. Our local economy is strong in healthcare and government, but too many Vallejoans commute long distances for work or can't find jobs that pay enough to support a household here. And by my account, it's about 65,000 work age individuals in the city. And out of that, 25% are unable to really find work. And so we have about 16,000 folks that are functionally unemployed here, by my count. We have Cal Maritime, the only degree granting maritime academy on the West Coast. Yet most graduates leave after earning their degrees because there aren't enough opportunities locally. And we have young folks that are coming out of school making near six figures, and they're leaving, or they're going to San Francisco to have a good time. It would be great if we could keep those folks here and they could buy homes and like build families. And so reinvigorating shipbuilding on Mare Island can change that. These are skilled, stable jobs: welders, electricians, engineers, supply chain workers with wages over $100,000. They create career ladders for those who are unemployed or are underemployed, and let Cal Maritime graduates build their lives here instead of leaving. Keeping that talent means more families living, buying homes, and investing right here in Vallejo. A strong maritime industry also strengthens our housing market. Higher wage jobs create new homeowners, reduce long commutes, and help stabilize neighborhoods. Federal and state investment in dry docks, dredging, and port upgrades would bring private capital that can ripple into housing development and revitalize around Mare Island and our downtown. And so by approving the maritime industry in Vallejo white paper and engaging partners like Congressman Garamendi, the state and California Forever, we can position Vallejo as a modern shipbuilding hub again, creating good jobs for our residents, new reasons for graduates to stay, and an economic base strong enough to support more affordable and market rate housing. This is a great moment to turn our maritime heritage into long-term prosperity and stability for Vallejo families. And so I urge you to move forward with this vision. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And that wraps up speakers, Madam Mayor.
Thanks to all our speakers. So I'll say a little bit and then we can get into some discussion. So I think this is a long time coming and an exciting conversation, because as all of the news about shipbuilding has come in, whether it's been the SHIPS Act or the president's executive order, and then obviously all of the conversations around Collinsville, I think it's been clear to folks that Vallejo needs to be in the front of that conversation and is kind of inherently in that conversation as the first naval base on the West Coast, the only maritime academy west of Texas, basically. You know, we really are at the center of it. And getting pulled into conversations, I've been very honest from the beginning about not wanting the Collinsville conversation to distract or supplant the very real reality, not just possibility, but reality that Vallejo needs to be at the center of this conversation. For Collinsville to succeed, Vallejo has to move. So regardless of how somebody feels about Collinsville, Vallejo's got to get control of our own narrative and get our stakeholders together. And the congressman has been incredibly supportive. So he had Mare Island in mind with the SHIPS Act, has been in ongoing conversations with the Navy. He has a vision to reindustrialize the island, and I want to thank our stakeholders. One of the first things that we did after that initial press conference at Dry Docks around the SHIPS Act was we convened the different maritime stakeholders with the congressman to make sure that he had an understanding of kind of who was there and how everyone interacted, and the different private stakeholders. And, you know, Mare Island Company could come and, you know, kind of share what they felt like there was capacity for on their privately owned land versus, you know, the minimal publicly owned land that's left on that island. And I want to thank, I don't know if Brian Nagy might be on. I think he said he was going to join us this evening. I'm not sure if he's online. But I want to thank Mare Island Company for putting together the white paper with assets and emphasize that all of that, this isn't an either or in terms of, you know, we're either going to go industrial on Mare Island or we're going to go with the vision for the specific plan. This is all complementary. So everything that they're proposing and all of these opportunities that we have are very consistent with the specific plan that Mare Island Company is proposing and would be complementary to the rest of the development. Some things that have been in discussion, trying to get ships home ported here, activating the finger piers, which are currently above sea level, I believe, so they would really need to be dredged, getting certification for Mare Island Dry Dock to repair combat vessels, use of some of our facilities for component parts, doing some coordination on investment in the seawall and dredging. And then the other piece that we have that, we have our location and all of this infrastructure, but we also have the workforce development piece. So we've got our Working Waterfront Coalition already operating on Mare Island with regional partners and regional participants. And then, of course, we have Cal Maritime, now Cal Poly Maritime, with their national standing and certification and workforce. So we're really in the position to take the lead on this. And I do think we should take the lead and convene our stakeholders and our neighbors and figure out what it is that we're doing. It sounds to me like the Navy's prepared to make a significant investment, and they really do need to make an investment on the West Coast. And I think we can make a pretty good case for this region, and I think Vallejo has to be not just at the table, but we probably need to be at the head of the table for that. So my priority tonight would be to figure out how to do that within our city capacity, but with a decent amount of urgency, because I think, retaining a consultant and working on this, whatever we do, we've got to be able to move quick, because we're really against the clock, I think, on this. And it's been hard to get good information on specific timelines, because it's just a lot about this conversation's happening or that conversation's happening. But I think we just want to be able to move quickly and work very, very closely with the congressman. I think we should work very, very closely with Cal Poly and very closely with Mare Island Company. And then, in as much as I can be supportive in trying to engage the other cities with maritime capacity to maybe get them to latch on to a regional effort, I'm ready to do that, because I think this is a tremendous opportunity for Vallejo, and I've heard nothing but support from it. If anything, I've gotten a lot of questions about, where are you at with this? Where are you at with this? Where's Vallejo? And Vallejo's working on it. We're getting there. It'll come forth. We're not going to get sucked into the noise, but we're going to do this thoughtfully and intentionally. And I'm glad that we are tonight. So I'm excited to hear what the council, where the council wants to take it and get moving on this. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and I agree with all of your comments. And I agree with what the speaker said, including Ann Carr's point about working with our regional partners. I think that if we're truly going to make a go of this and we're going to be at the forefront of this, I think we do need to partner with our neighbors. I think there's things that, so some fact-finding things that I would like for the city to do. Just two of the huge barriers that I've heard is, one, that the aircraft carriers are too tall to fit under the Richmond Bridge, and so they can't even make it this far. And then number two is that the Navy is looking for 10 dry docks in a centralized location, which could be the whole Bay Area. But, we only have, I think we have 4 on Mare Island, is that right? So, and maybe the finger piers. So, working with partners in Alameda and Oakland, San Francisco, Benicia, finding, Benicia may be limited because of the Carquinez Bridge for the height, but finding other regional partners that will help, because I would think that reinvesting and revamping current shipyards would be cheaper than building whole brand new shipyards. And I think that's where our big selling point is. I think that we already have the infrastructure, we have the water accessibility, we have railroad accessibility, we have highway infrastructure. And so that's our major selling point, where we can invest a lot less to get a lot more bang for our buck by having regional partners. Now, Vallejo is, Mare Island is very important, but I think we don't have enough capacity for what the Navy is looking for. So that's why I think we need to have partners, like I said, with the other cities around us, and make a much stronger package than Collinsville could put together. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Gordon.
First, I want to say thank you so much to the city manager for hearing this ask of mine. Since I sat here on the dais, I asked if you can please take this on, and you assigned Gillian to this, and I appreciate that. So I want to say thank you to you for doing that. I want to make sure that whatever we do, I want to make sure, before I go into my next statement, can you give us clarity what the ask is for today, just for make sure? What is the ask for today?
So through the mayor, the ask for today is, I kind of outlined our regional perspective, and would council like us to move forward, working with our partners, creating a stakeholder group, and creating the documentation to support Vallejo's role in this expansion of the SHIPS Act legislation opportunity. So
Okay.
would you like us to continue moving forward, working with partners, creating basically the draft white paper to move forward and push Vallejo to the forefront?
And then you would bring that draft back here before any final? Okay, so I would like just remind our colleagues that what city we represent, and if we want to bring equity here, and let us be the forefront. I don't care if it's tech, I don't care, because we got a lot of empty buildings that tech can be there. We want to remind that, like my colleague said here, that we can utilize other companies, but if we can break down huge ships, we can build them back up. And we have had huge ships here, breaking them down since I've been living here, and we can build them up as well. But we definitely want to partner with all of our entities because it's the region, and if we don't get it together, we're going to lose it. And anybody who invests, they're going to expect it to come back to them one way or nothing. Nothing is for free. So, but I would like to get more information, and I would like to hear from everyone, like if they can come to here before we finalize that document, whether it be California Forever, whether it be Mare Island, whether it be Benicia, anybody who wants to have something to do with this opportunity, I would like to know if we can hear from them. We had some great points that was shared from our constituents here, especially the people in this room have made some valid points. And so I'm just so proud of everybody for utilizing your voice because it matters. So please, I would like to make the recommendation that what is being asked of us today, to let them do what they have to do and then bring that rough draft back here, but make sure that whatever we do, we utilize all of Mare Island one way or another, and whatever else that we can share with others. This would be a great stronger together opportunity, in my opinion. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Matulik.
Thank you, Mayor, and just want to thank everybody that kind of spoke to this, and especially Mr. Cobb, Mr. Nurki, especially coming from that don't live here, and even Mr. Hayes. I mean, the fact that you lived here for a little bit, but you understand the history and the importance of what Mare Island means. But for you to come from Alameda and to come from Oakland to speak on our behalf, the importance of what Mare Island can do with this opportunity here, to me, this is a no-brainer. For us to have the opportunity to expand the infrastructure specifically at Mare Island, if we're not going to take this opportunity and run with it, I don't know what we're doing. I mean, 9 years ago, I sat on the Planning Commission for 7.5 years. And the first thing that came to mind was Mare Island, how to improve that. And over my 7.5 years, we basically got nowhere. We didn't expand it to the capacity or the opportunities that were available to us. Obviously, there was a lot of things that were happening that prevented us. But now, sitting on this dais, I want to make sure our voice is heard, saying that we want to take these opportunities and run with it. And to the point of the partnering up with our regional partners. So this is where, whether it's Alameda, whether it's Richmond, I've actually, and through Cal Cities, I've actually spoken with Councilmember Jill Hoffman over in Sausalito. And her and I have been having these conversations. And when Congressman Garamendi spoke over here at Cal Poly, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at that presentation, but she was there on behalf of Cal Cities. And so I'm looking forward to having these conversations with those cities and those that have the infrastructure already in place. I mean, I have no control over Collins, and so to hear all of the information of how that is a challenging site to even bring up to one, I only want to speak to what Vallejo and what all the existing infrastructure that we currently have in place, Sausalito, Richmond, Alameda, to where we can, it's less of an infrastructure ask and to do to help build up those infrastructures. So I want to make sure that we focus on having the easier fix, well, I don't know about easy, but a less challenging fix than have to start from square zero that would have to happen at Collinsville. So, so once again, I think this is a no-brainer for us to move forward with this and even expand it even more to focusing on how do we expand the infrastructure over at Mare Island, specifically beyond just the shipbuilding, because we've got the southern part that has more opportunity there to expand that we haven't even started those conversations that we should be looking at. And we're talking about our how to expand our waterfront. This is part of that conversation. This can build off of that beyond the dredging, beyond a lot of that stuff, because there's just so much opportunity, the ability that we have once we move forward with this. So I just want to have us move forward with this as quickly and thoughtfully as possible.
Thanks. Councilmember Ledesju.
Thank you. So one of the things that I want to daylight, and I think it's really important as we're doing this work, and we have our state legislators that we need to engage as well. And you have it here, and you have California Forever, whether people like them or not. You have a lot of people doing things in Solano County. We need to work with our county. This is a regional effort, and we need to be doing that work from a regional perspective. In addition to that is the reminder that there are 4 dry docks on Mare Island, and only one belongs to the city of Vallejo, plus 157 plus acres only belong to Vallejo. So when I think about Mare Island and what the little portion that we own as it relates to dry docks, and as this continues to move forward, because Mare Island Company is a player in this, and they are talking to California Forever and so forth and on, it is when this plays out, and you're looking at the other 3 dry docks and all the land that belongs to Mare Island Company, what will be the benefits that Vallejo will receive outside of just operating its one dock and the 157 acres that, quote unquote, that we currently own today. So this is really important when you talk about community district benefits. You know, and so again, I go back to this whole conversation as I did with the Pomo Indians when we're talking about economic development is who is our consultant working with us on these things, because we have limited capacity from a staff perspective, and who's there, who is the team on ground with us so that we are getting the things that we need and we are not left out in the cold. Mare Island owns 3 of those docks. We only own 1. What are we going to get from them while we're there? What does it look like for workforce development for our children who live in Vallejo? This is really important. What are we writing? It's more than just a study. It's more than all the excitement around it. It's remembering what we own and what we need to be getting from the other side of the players in all of this work. And when we're doing this work, I also look for not just a consultant and a team being built, but I also look at how are we engaging community as well. Not one conversation, but many, many, many conversations. And not just having people come to us, but us actually going to different communities. Every community responds differently. So we need to make sure that we are talking to all of our communities.
Councilmember Matias.
Thank you, Mayor. Rather interesting that we're having these 2 conversations on this evening for different reasons. But specifically on the Ships Act, it's one of the things that both political parties agree on. It has endorsements from senators, congressmen, up and down the Democratic and Republican Party, and so it's not a matter of if, it's probably a matter of when. And just hearing about some of the news, just seeing the news, and the statements that have been made, it appears like this administration wants to move forward, and wants to move forward with some urgency. So in a position or in a place where they're looking for opportunities, whether that's in the southeast or in the west, they're going to probably be looking at places that have existing infrastructure. So we have to obviously, latch onto that as a city. And to me, this is about, creating economic opportunity. We've got a lot of folks, we've got white collar jobs, but I think as a country, we're all going through this phase of kind of getting back to basics, right? Like, where are there opportunities for blue collar jobs and good paying blue collar jobs? And how does Vallejo position itself as a city that can create that opportunity for its residents and for folks who want to come here? So I'm supportive of it. I think that there's a couple of concerns that I have, and I just want to elevate them for the sake of transparency. It's one thing for us to center Vallejo as the center of that shipbuilding activity, and as a direct recipient of any funds that come out of the Ships Act, right? And it's something entirely different to position Vallejo in a supportive capacity relative to Collinsville. So I think we have to make a decision as a city what it is that we're pitching. Are we driving, or are we playing a supportive role? Because if we're driving, everyone needs to be on the same page in terms of messaging, and we all need to be aligned around that value that we're providing, and I don't think we've necessarily teased that out. So that's one. Two, the pink elephant in the room is obviously California Forever, which people have feelings and opinions about. I agree with Councilmember Letiju that irrespective of your personal opinions about that, you still got to engage, you still got to talk, you still got to figure out where there are opportunities for collaboration with those folks. At the same time, these folks are operating on different timelines that the city of Vallejo is, and they've got a lot of money behind them, but we happen to have a congressman that's championing this initiative. So how do we leverage that, and how do we leverage that to position or center Vallejo? And the one piece I want to elevate is I have seen other Solano County cities adopt resolutions supporting shipyard building. I'm not necessarily sure if we've done that or if we've taken any action to that effect. Assistant City Manager Hayne, any comment?
No, we haven't taken any action. The way that I understand it, and City Manager Murray, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the other cities have put forth a resolution of support for the ships building and Collinsville.
Got it.
And so we did not take that action at this point yet.
Yeah, so I think it's something that this council needs to evaluate, and I'm not suggesting that we replicate the same action that the other Solano County cities took, but as we develop this white paper, is there some position we want to take as a council that we then send over to Congressman Garamendi's office, something we can move on right away to show some support behind this initiative? A second point I want to raise more directly for you, Assistant City Manager Hayden, is around our economic development strategic plan. So one of the things I disagreed with the consultant on was there was this focus on advanced manufacturing, but there wasn't as much of a focus on our institutions, our educational institutions in town, and more specifically our maritime industry. And so, how do you sort of marry implementing that plan while at the same time we're giving you direction to move this shipbuilding yard initiative forward in a resource-constrained environment, right? I think that's a conversation we need to have. And are there opportunities for synergies, right, around advanced manufacturing and also maritime? what Mr. Cowan said around Cal Poly Solano being the only institution that awards maritime degrees in the West Coast, that's true. We also have the Waterfront Workforce Coalition, which I know Councilmember Lattijew has, and Supervisor James and Assemblymember Wilson. I mean, they have really spent a lot of time and effort supporting that initiative. So we've got the workforce, and there would be funding that would be unlocked from the ship's yard if we continue to cultivate those partnerships. And so how do we build that pipeline, and how do we engage the Solano Community College in that process too? Because I don't think they have a focus on maritime. I think they have a focus on automobiles and tech, but not on the maritime front. So I'm very focused on workforce development. I think that's an area that we've got to make sure we've got our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and then separately, the more important point is, what is it that we're saying as the city of Vallejo around shipbuilding? Are we taking lead, or are we doing supply chain for Collinsville? You can dance all around it all you want, but that's really what we gotta decide on, because those are two very different conversations depending on which route we take. So that's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, we've done one round. I'm going to say a couple more things, and then I see Councilmember Gordon and then the Vice Mayor, and it sounds like we've got a good support to move forward. But in response to the comments, I think my perspective, I think we got to be driving the bus. I don't think we need to be the only people driving the bus, and I think we have two very, very well-resourced, sophisticated stakeholders that can help us with the capacity, and that is Cal Poly and Mare Island Company. And I think that would be my recommendation, would be to lean very heavily on Cal Poly, Cal Maritime, and on Mare Island Company as the landowner and, landlord to dry dock and lend, and and then have the city sort of be the partner in an overarching way. And I think with respect to the county resolutions that came through, the way that I've been thinking about it and looking at it was that at least for me, I don't feel like it makes sense for Vallejo to adopt any kind of resolution supporting shipbuilding when we are the center of it. I think rather than adopt a resolution, we should do a white paper. And then we should get resolutions of support from everybody around us for the proposal we're putting together. So as I see it, I don't know what good a resolution from Vallejo does when what we really need to be doing is proposing something and saying, this is what we want to do in our city. All the other cities that have done shipbuilding resolutions, they don't have a shipyard. So they're just saying, we support this. We're saying, we support this, we're going to do it. And so for me, the action that we take is that product, is that ask, is that effort, and that's our affirmation for support of this work. And so I think that's basically what I wanted to say, is leaning on those stakeholders. And then for me, at least, I think we should go for it and not just do the kind of tacit support, but say, no, we're gonna be at the center of this. And I don't think taking the lead on it means that we're going to do everything. We're going to be the entire shipyard. And I think Collinsville can do Collinsville. They can figure out how their proposal complements what we can do, and we can very much complement them. But I don't think it precludes us. I don't think we should be an ancillary to that. I think we should be our own thing with strength and leadership and bring the region with us. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you so very much. I like to echo everything I'm hearing. That is the reason why when I sat down, I asked, first find out what California Forever is about and what is their plans. The second is their Mare Island becoming the driving, if we had the capability in the Shipbuilding Act, to find more information about that. And also later on, Collinsville came into it through California Forever, and find out what they can do. And then later on, hearing the congressman in the meeting that most of us had the opportunity to sit in, he tasked us to say, what is it that Vallejo Benicia can be able to do and create that paper to submit to him. What are the benefits? That's how I understood it. What is the benefits that Mary Ellen has? And then if anybody else can bring something, let's see what we can do to collaborate together. So as a region, we can get this contract, because as he said before, there are other regions that are in competition, and we don't want to lose this opportunity. That's what I understood him to say. So me, myself personally, I don't want to make a decision yet till after you bring, because that was really a good idea, because then it was still in the scope of what I was asking anyways. So the only thing is we're missing are the voices to bring that to life, right? So if we can do that, that would be my last ask. And then when you bring that draft, then we can say, I'm in agreement that we want to do a white paper and say, yes, we have it. And then if we come to conclusion that we don't, then we could think of other ways to partner with our other entities who are interested in doing this. But we have all kinds of ships. I was terrified the other day, though. I thought the ship that went under, I just knew he was going to take that bridge out. It was huge. And the water tide was low. The high, I was nervous. But they made it through. So I'm saying I believe we do have the capability, in my opinion. So, but if you could please bring that before I make my final decision. And anybody out there that wants to sit down and talk to us or share letters, could they do that through the city manager? Could residents send letters to you in favor or disagree, and you can add that to this or not? Because they're blowing our phones up.
Let me give that some thought, how that process might work, and let's talk a little bit more about that.
You're gonna look like Santa Claus. Gonna get all the letters from everybody. But anyway, so that I want to thank you for this hard work. I know that everybody's been on a lot of stress, and please continue to come to the conversations that anyone's having. That would be great, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you to the city manager and the city attorney.
Councilmember Lettish.
Sure.
All right, and Gillian.
So when do we expect to have the white paper done?
Well, I don't have a timeline on that, but I think if the council wants us to move forward, we would immediately engage. I do have a couple prospects for consultants that work in the maritime industry that we would then flush out, get scopes from them and timelines that I'm hoping that we could get something moving in the next month. This week started happening and get the draft to you in, end of October would be best case scenario.
Okay. So I'm going to make a comment. That's fine. I want to say this because make no mistake, no matter how you look at it, and Mare Island Company and Cal Maritime, they also are collaborating and having conversations with California Forever. Let's not pretend that people are not having conversations in this work. And let's not pretend that Vallejo is just going to drive it all by themselves. That's not going to happen. And when we're talking about this, we need to, again, be very clear and very careful about what we're asking for, what those partnerships look like while we're talking about someone driving. I just want to be really clear about that. It's very important.
Thanks. All right, Vice Mayor. I think we might be ready for a motion.
Yes, I was just about to make the motion. So I move that we have received all the information on the shipbuilding in Solano County and nationally, and we provided policy and direction to the city manager. And I move that we move forward with the maritime industry in Vallejo white paper to the Office of Representative John Garamendi for consideration, with Vallejo as the driver in the region, and solidifying that we support industrial shipbuilding on Mare Island, as was mentioned by the public speaker.
All right, let's vote. We're working on it. She's resetting it. That was the last vote. Here we go. We're ready to vote.
There you go.
And that motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Palmera's absent.
And I don't want to speak for Councilmember Palmares, but as the representative for Mare Island, I feel like he would be supportive as well. So we can't forget that he's not here. With that, thank you very much again to everyone that came out. Thank you for your work on this, and we will go ahead and adjourn at 10:14 p.m.